Hey guys, OG Albina here, bringing you guys another Draft League movie. I know it's been a minute, there's always a long time in between these, but finally had a league finish up that I was, happy enough with to show, and I wanted to kind of showcase to you guys, show you guys my games, my thought process, and show you how far we ended up making it. This one is going to be on GDI. I forget what the acronym's for, but it's Goons League, and if you don't know, Goons is my group of friends on Discord that I've known for a really long time. We don't typically run leagues at the servers because they don't typically end up lasting, but the GOAT Kurt was actually running this one, so it was ran pretty darn tightly, and this was going to be a Gen 7 league. Yes, we wanted to go back. This is before Pokemon Legends ZA came out and they were announcing Megas being a thing coming back, and we all kind of want to play with Megas, and we all kind of came up playing through Gen 7, at least most of us really got into the format and awesome. So especially myself, so we wanted to go back and play it and have some fun playing some Gen 7 Draft League. If you guys are excited for this movie, be sure to drop a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 5,000 subs by the end of the year, and I would really appreciate if you help me along that journey. And yeah, with that being said, I do want to go over our team really quick before we start jumping into battles, just so you can see kind of the squad that we're working with, at least for the first part of the season. We do end up making some transactions a little bit later on, but yeah, to start off, I think I have like a 12th pick overall, and I'm sitting there, and on the board is a top 3 Pokemon, and Usum still sitting there at the 12th pick, and that's going to be Big Celesteela. Now, Celi does what it does in Gen 8, if you guys played in Galar, right? It's fat, it's annoying, it leeches, and it can potentially win with Autotomize sets. The big thing with Celi, though, that makes it absolutely broken this gen is going to be its access to Z-moves. And this is going to be one of our Z captains this season, meaning we can use any Z move we want on this guy, barring that it isn't an Omni Boost move or obviously anything that boosts evasion or anything like that. But this thing with its move pool, with its very adjustable stat spread, obviously being able to get a Beast Boost in 4 different stats, makes this thing, 1, an absolute pain in the builder for opposing teams, but 2, a really fun Pokemon in the builder for us, whether we want to go physically defensive with Leech Seed plus Protect, whether we want to go physically offensive, specially offensive, mixed, win con with Autotomize, even Assault Vest Celesteela can, put in some work every once in a while. There's definitely some really cool stuff that we could do with Celi here, and with Z-moves, it becomes infinitely more fun. I love using this mod in Gen 7. Anytime I play a Gen 7 League and I have the opportunity to get Celi, I'm probably going to take it. Now, second off, I really want to grab a Pokemon, not necessarily because it's like the perfect Celesteela pair, right? They're definitely good together. I will say they're definitely not, they're definitely not bad together, since that Celi is going to be immune to ground for this guy, which is awesome. But mostly a Pokemon, it's because I really wanted to get over 100 kills all time for me. It is my current all-time kill leader, and a Pokemon I'm very excited to use again, because not in Generation 9, and that is going to be Big Victini. Again, if we want to talk about fun in the builder and versatility, this is your guy. I absolutely love this thing. Now, the only downside is we can't run boots on Teeny in Gen 7, so we are very Stealth Rock weak, but we end up getting a really good bit of hazard removal on this team, so it's not really that much of a factor whether I want to be Choice Scarf, Choice Band, Choice Specs, Resist Berry, physically defensive, even with like weird Will-O-Wisp sets and things like that. I can be Trick Room, I can, trick things, items, be a big nuisance. I absolutely love this guy. This thing is so unbelievably phenomenal in a Draft League setting where we can be so creative in the builder. I really love using Victini. I think coming into the season, I think I had like 95, 96 kills with it all time. It's far and above the Pokemon I've performed the best with. And like I said, it's not the best Celi partner, but they do pair together decently synergistically, right? In the sense that Celi is going to be immune to the ground type moves that Teeny doesn't like, which is pretty darn cool. And Victini is going to resist fire for Celi, which is, a nice little added bonus, but not the craziest thing in the world. Now, again, we're kind of on the Gen 7 high right now. I got, Celi when it was a top 3 mod in the format. I got Gen 7 Victini. I want to get another Pokemon that was known for being extremely potent in this format, as well as a Pokemon that fits really well in the team in the sense that it checks Electrics for Celi, and it really checks Waters for Victini, and also checks Grounds for Victini, and that is going to be Big Superior. Now, I can't Stellar Terra or Terra Ground or anything like that, but what I can do is I can use Hidden Power, which is going to be really cool on Serp. Obviously the combination of Leaf Storm plus Hidden Power Ice or Fire or Ground or whatever it might be, and like a Dragon Pulse for random dragons, makes this thing incredibly scary with a snowball potential. Obviously on top of that, we can like Leaf Storm, all the things that we've been talking about, where we can Glare, we can sub-leech, and we can even defog for our Victini and to a lesser extent our Celesteela. Keep rocks off the field, be a big nuisance, and, potentially snowball some games as well, too. So it's a Pokemon I'm definitely really excited to use. I haven't used it in a very, very long time, at least when it still had hidden power and stuff like that, because it's been a long time since Gen 7, and I haven't drafted it with Terra and Gen 9 yet, so I was definitely really, really excited to use this. Now, of course, we're in an old gen, prior to Gen 8, where Megas were still in the game, and granted, they're coming back, which is hype, but of course, I have to get a Mega for the team, and I want something good that fits the team, but something that I enjoy using. And honestly, in my opinion, one of the most slept-on Megas in the Draft League format that there is something that we got in Round 4, and that is going to be Mega Blastoise. I love this guy. Again, we want to talk about great hazard removal for Victini. This almost looks like a Victini team at this point, but this is going to be a great Pokemon to do so. Really, really strong breaker too with Mega Launcher, 135 special attack, and the coverage that this thing has, it can get really, really threatening really fast. Now, unfortunately, Rapid Spin doesn't give us a speed boost, and obviously we don't have Shell Smash, so this is Mega Blastoise in its most tame form humanly possible, but it's also great defensively. Look at that 79, 120, 115. Really fat. 78 speed is also very, very solid. When it comes to a Pokemon this fat and this strong, and it can really do a ton of damage. We can Toxic and whittle things down, we can Scald Burn things, or we can go out with, Water Pulse, Dark Pulse, Aura Sphere, Ice Beam, all the crazy coverage plus Mega Launcher that we have, really becoming a terrifying Pokemon for our opponents to deal with. Now, if you look at the team up to this point, we have no hazards. We don't even have Stealth Rock. And that's obviously something that we want to take care of right now. And I ended up grabbing Diancie, one of my favorite budget fairies. Now, this is not as good as Gen 9 Diancie, right? In the sense that we don't have spikes. You see there's no spike at all. And we don't have Encore. Two of DNC's best moves, in my opinion, that it didn't have at this point. But the defensive typing is great. The defensive, stats are obviously great. It's great physically, especially. Can be a big nuisance. It is also a Cleric with Heal Bell, which is always very nice when you have Pokemon like Victini that are very, very likely to probably be approached with a Thunder Wave. So I love DNC. I mean, it's a little bit less valuable in a Gen 7 format, and it might be like the Gen 8 and Gen 9 DNC bias, really shining through. But this guy is still really great. It was one of the best fairies left on the board, in my opinion, and I wanted to snag it up as early as humanly possible, and we were able to do so. Now, I kind of wanted a solid Scarfer on the team that wasn't just going to be something like Victini. I needed my Dark type. I want another Pokemon off the ground as well. It's never, a bad thing. It also gives me another Fire Resist for my Superior and Celesteela. Just a great Pokemon overall, and I love having an offensive Dark with an offensive Psychic / Fire, and that is going to be Hydreigon here. Hydreigon is going to be our second Z Crystal user. Now, I don't imagine it'll use it as much as something like Celesteela, but say there's a matchup where Shelly needs to go Rocky Helmet, needs to go Leftovers, whatever it might be, Hydreigon's going to be a very, very strong alternative with Dark EMZs, Draconium Zs, or even Poisonium Zs with Belch under its belt, or even, Flash Cannon, Steelium Zs, and things of the sort. We can't Nasty Plot or Dragon Dance this gen, but we can Defog and we can Roost, making this thing much, much better defensively this gen, which is really, really nice. We also have great Fairy Resist for this in Celesteela and Victini, so it pairs synergistically with those guys really darn well. Now, up to this point, I do have a couple electric resistant guys like Hydreigon and Superior, but they're not Pokemon I typically always want to use super, super defensively, especially on, mons I can still Volt Switch on them. So I needed my ground. I needed more rocks at this point, too, and I only had one in just Diancie. So I ended up grabbing one of my favorite Gen 7 Pokemon, and that is going to be Stunfisk here. Not only does Stunfisk do what we're kind of asking of him, it also takes the pressure off of DNC and Celesteela, gives us a flying resist, but it also gives us a really, really solid anti-Metamon into the best Pokemon in the format in Tapu Koko. This is the greatest Tapu Koko check that exists, and being able to secure it on our team is awesome. It also checks Gen 7 Zera very, very well. It checks Tornadus very, very well, and it checks a lot of high-end physical offense really, really well, just due to static and Rocky Helmet and just being a big nuisance. So Stunfisk has always been one of my favorite, like, anti-meta, low-tier Pokemon to draft, and he's not in Gen 9 either, so we're getting more Pokemon that are not in Gen 9. Then lastly, I end up getting Audino here. I thought Audino was a great kind of backbone to the team, giving us Wish Pass into the likes of, DNC, Hydreigon, Blastoise, Superior, Victini, Celesteela, all these guys that really, really appreciate it. Another Cleric and Heal Bell, which is going to be great to take pressure off of things like DNC and Superior. We get Encore, we get T-Wave and Toxic and Knockoff and a bunch of, big nuisance things that a lot of mons can't do all in one, shiny package that Audino can. It has the greatest ability in the game in Regenerator, and it's a good ghost check. We have Hydreigon up to this point, but we don't want to overexert Hydreigon. There's a lot of fairies that learn Focus Blast, and there's even some that learn Dazzling Gleam, and if that's the case, we're not going to be the most sturdy check to them, at least defensively, so having a solid check to them defensively, instead of like Audino that's always living one, is always going to be valuable. But that is going to be the team, at least to start the season. We do end up making some transactions. I'll go over those when they do happen, about halfway-ish through the season, but I was really happy with this draft, and I'm really excited to jump into week 1, which we'll do right now. Alrighty, gang, here we are, week 1 against Jesse 504. Now, some background knowledge and context going into this battle. This is originally drafted by my buddy Tony, and Tony got really busy. Before the league started, he's like, hey, I don't think I have as much time as I thought I did. I'm going to drop this one so I can focus on my Wi-Fi league, so that, which is totally cool, and Jaybird took over. The reason I mention that is because Jaybird did not draft this team. He ended up making a lot of changes to the squad after the fact that made him a little bit more comfortable. Excuse me. With said team, but it's just something to keep in mind when it comes to the squad that Jaybird is rocking out with, because it's definitely not his optimal team or playstyle, to say the very least. But regardless, there are some pretty big threats on the squad. First up, you could see something like the Landers staring on the other side. Once it gets up that gravity, the combination of Z-Fly, which is a Z-Captain, plus Earthquake, just kind of smokes me. It's really, really strong into the squad. Some kind of like SD gravity set can really put on a lot of pressure if positioned correctly. Necrozma is a Pokemon that really, really worries me. Thankfully, this is Gen 7. Don't have to worry about Dragon Dance or anything like that, which is great, but it can still get out of hand really, really fast. I think Calm Mind really worries me, especially if my Hydreigon takes any chip, or it just boosts up to a point where Hydreigon can't break through it. Mega Electric, we actually have some pretty good counterplay to. We also have good spin in Blastoise, but our spinner does lose to the main Hazard Center in Ferrothorn. Then Zoroark was something I really under-prepped for in the builder, to be completely honest. And you'll see in the game, I don't have great switch-ins to it, but let's go over the team that we're rocking out with. First is going to be Mega Blastoise here. We're Scald, Rapid Spin, Toxic, and Mirror Coat. Mirror Coat and very, very specially defensive is going to allow us to lure things like the Manectric as we take that Volt Switch, Mirror Coat, and just blow something up, which is really, really nice into the Ferrothorn. It's something that can really, really lure that thing, make it take a lot of damage. Obviously, we could go with Aura Sphere instead, but I thought Mirror Coat was a little bit more overall useful. We have Scald to bait burns into things like Ferrothorn, and then also Toxic to hit things like Milotic, poison them. Toxic to hit things like Necrozma if it's a Calm Mind variant, and then Rapid Spin just to keep hazards away. Then we have Stunfisk here. We are Earth Power, Stealth Rock, Toxic, and Scald in this matchup. Scald's going to be a great option to hit the Landorus, punish that thing, potentially catch it with a burn, otherwise it would wall our stabs. Something like Stunfisk is always going to wall us, Ferrothorn is always going to wall us, so I'm not super worried about hitting that thing super hard. And otherwise, it's just kind of here to Earth Power, Toxic things like the Necrozma trying to set up. Man, I'm so glad I can just click Toxic on things. Gen 9 has changed me, man. I miss it so much. But it's also going to be a rocker. Mainly it's here to come in on something like Manectric, block Volt Switches, and then allow me to position aggressively against the very obvious incoming Ferrothorn or Landorus. Speaking of positioning pretty aggressively on those two, we have a Victini up next. It's going to be Blue Flare, Glaciate, Thunder, and Flame Charge with a Shuckle Berry. This Pokemon does really, really well if things are sufficiently chipped down, do the likes of our Celesteela, our Superior, and our Hydreigon, or if we're getting Scald Burns and Toxic on things, this guy can really go in an endgame scenario. Thunder is going to hit things like Milotic very, very hard, and if they're not max SPDF, it's going to be pretty easy to potentially 2-hit KO that thing after just a little bit of chip. And the combination of Blue Flare, Glaciate hits everything really hard. Flame Charge is going to be nice to outspeed Manectric and Scarf Landorus, which is really nice. And then we have Shuckle Berry to always take a hit from that, or like an Earth Power or Earthquake Necrozma, which is also nice. Next, we have probably the best Pokemon in the matchup, and that is going to be Superior. We're a sub-Glare set here with Leaf Storm and Hidden Power Fire. I mean, realistically, look at Jaybear's team. What takes this on? He has one Pokemon faster. It's going to be Manectric. Other than that, Leaf Storm, game over. He really doesn't deal with it well at all. We have Hidden Power Fire for the Ferrothorn, which can't inherently do much to us either. Gyro Ball isn't coming close to picking up any kind of meaningful damage, and we can sub on T-Waves and things like that, which is nice. Then we have Firium Z Celesteela. We are an autotomized offensive set, but very, very bulky with Leech Seed. Things like Milotic getting caught with a Leech Seed, things like Necrozma, is going to make them much easier to beat 1v1 in conjunction with Air Slash, Flinches, and potential Beast Boost in our special attack, which we will still nab. The bulk is also going to allow us to live hits from things like Manectric and Landorus a little bit easier, and Heat Wave Necrozma, which is obviously really nice. Your Fire MZ is a great neutral click into things like the Manectric, and obviously, just a very accurate, strong Z move in this game. I really like that aspect. Then lastly, we have Choice Scarf Hydreigon. Really, really good revenge killer in this game. Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Draco Meteor, and U-Turn. If you look at the team that J-Bear brought, I'm not really remembering what his fairy was. But if you look at the team that he ended up bringing, he doesn't have a Dragon Immunity or a real Dark Pulse resist at all. So a great revenge killer to things like Manectric once they're a little bit chipped, and just a strong Scarfer overall. Alrighty, with that being said, let's fix the crop job a little bit, because I did mess it up a little bit. And we can go ahead and jump right into the battle. We do see a lead Ferrothorn on our Blastoise. This is unfortunate. The reason we led Blastoise is I really want to catch that Manectric lead, hit something with a big Mirror Coat. That was kind of a lead idea. I thought that Mame would potentially want to lead, though I guess in hindsight, Stunfisk being there kind of deters that. Regardless though, I'm going to make the pivot out. I don't want to take a hit from this thing. He's very annoying, a little bit scary. Make the play into Celesteela as we take on most Ferrothorn variants. The only thing that would be annoying is a potential Thunder Wave. That we actually see a Dark Pulse, and ladies and gentlemen, that is not a Ferrothorn, that is a Zoroark. So we're gonna have to be a little bit careful on this thing. There's a lot of damage, and while I'm a very bulky Celesteela, I'm still offensive, and I want to use this as a potential win condition. So I'm gonna pivot out hard into my Hydreigon right here. Gonna take a nice chunk from Flamethrower. Still 15 is pretty darn annoying, and from here, I'm gonna make the U-turn play, because if he's not Scarf, he's gonna die to a Draco, probably pivot out. If he's not Sash, he's going to die to a Draco. And if he is Sash, he's going to stay in, probably try and kill me with some kind of Focus Blast or something like that. So I don't want to risk that. I'm going to go ahead and U-turn, pop this guy's Illusion, get out in our Superior, live any one hit, get a little bit lefties back, and then this is just the freest Leaf Storm of all time. Again, as you can see, Jesse has absolutely nothing for us spamming Leaf Storm the whole game. Next is going to come out here. I need to scout for Overheat. I think Overheat's a really likely possibility because it wears down Stunfisk faster than any other coverage move, really, other than like a Hidden Power Ice, I suppose, or something like that. So I'm going to get hard in my Stunfisk, and this will allow me to get my rocks and take any one hit from this thing guaranteed. We do see a Mega and a Signal Beam, so again, good things to know. We get most of that back with leftovers, though, because Stunfisk is the absolute goat. Going to get up some rocks here, which is really, really nice. And then we're going to see a pivot out here into our Celesteela on this Ferrothorn. This turn I am going to go for a Leech Seed. Again, I really do expect something like Milotic to come in. So catching that guy with a Leech Seed, it taking rocks, and getting a little bit of health back is really valuable. I mean, my Silly would be back up to full pretty much with that. Unfortunately, though, J-Bear's going to make the play of staying in Leech Seeding, catching me being over-aggressive, which is fine. I can go ahead and just Fire Blast this next turn and do a ton of damage to him, potentially, as Landorus is going to come out on this turn, as I do pop the Z-Fire, do a ton of damage to Big Landorus, a nice 58, or 59. Unfortunately, the Leech Seed are really wearing us down, so we're going to have to be really careful about our Selly. I'm going to go hard Blastoise. If he goes into this, I'm pretty confident that he is going to be a Gravity variant, as he does U-turn afterwards as I get my Mega off, and I'm just going to go ahead and Rapid Spin. Something like Ferrothorn can come in, but it's going to have to try and get up rocks again. I'm going to gain some offensive initiative there. This next turn, as the Milotic comes in, it's going to Ice Beam me, maybe expecting to switch to Serp, which I think is fair. Like, me going Serp is an instant KO in every instance, so that makes definitely a lot of sense, but I'm not immediately threatened by anything, and I see this is leftovers, not a Flame Orb. I'm always going to Toxic this thing if he's willing to stay in. If he wants to go into Ferrothorn, that's also fine. I'm going to make the pivot into Celesteela right here as a Toxic comes out into me, so I look like an absolute Dawn, but really, it was just kind of a mid-ground, right? Leaf Storm, or Ice Beam's not doing that much, Scald isn't doing that much, and unless it burns me, it's really not threatening me, and it really covers that Ferrothorn, which I expected to be the pivot eventually. Next up, Manectric is going to come out. I believe I do Leech Seed right here because it riddled down the Milotic like crazy with Toxic. And again, it gets me a little bit more healthy to where I could potentially take a hit from Necrozma. I could take a hit from non-gravity landers like Stone Edge. And I could take on something like Ferrothorn a little bit better. This next turn, Toxic is going to come out and miss me. It's unfortunate, but you'll see it doesn't super end up mattering throughout the course of this game. Landers is going to pivot in on our Stunfisk as I make a double out into Celesteela. Mostly expecting the Ferrothorn to come out, but that's fine. Landers can come in, and it can gravity all at once, but really I get a free autotomize off here, because without that gravity up, I'm going to be able to take on anything this thing wants to go for. So we do auto up. We're going to go ahead and just be able to throw off a big air slash, which is really, really nice here. Chip something down. This Necrozma takes a ton of damage. I do not want to allow this thing to sit up for free, so I'm very comfortable going for an air slash. I also know I won't miss because of the gravity, which is really, really nice. Necro's going to get nice and chipped down, and from here, I am just going to go ahead and click air slash one more time as the Ferrothorn comes in. And again, gravity's still up, so I appreciate the 100% accurate Fire Blast. We knock out the Ferrothorn from full, get a nice little special attack boost, and honestly, we're like a flinch away from winning the game with Celesteela right here. I'm completely fine if it doesn't. My Serp, my Victini, and my Hydreigon all look great, especially with this guy getting chipped and how low everything else is at this point. Like, my Hydreigon also just smokes from this point once I get this Air Slash off. So the Milo's going to come out. I am going to Air Slash. I would need probably 2 flinches to 1v1 this thing. Unfortunately, we don't get it. We do see a Scald pick us off, but this guy's nice and low. It is superior time, and I'm just going to click Leaf Storm. Hindsight, subbing there would have been nice, but just in case Jaybird didn't want to sack that thing, or didn't want to allow the sub, and he decided to Ice Beam on my, sack potentially, or my sub, that would have been really unfortunate, because it would have put me in range of a Signal Beam from here. Now, I don't know what his last move slot is, and I'm going to play this game a little overly careful as to not throw. Realistically, I probably could have stayed in right here, right? We saw Signal Beam was a click. We also saw Toxic. We probably have a Thunderbolt in the Volt Switch as well, right? Pretty standard coverage here. I really didn't want to die to an Overheat, and I do still die to Overheat from here. He is going to make a double out into Landorus, as I do make a switch out myself into Stunfisk. So he calls me there. He sees that I've been making that switch. I'm going to make a pivot into Victini, because I don't really need Victini. I take any Earthquake from this thing, and I'm going to be able to, adjust accordingly. We do see a Tectonic Rage, though, and that is going to kill me from full, because Landorus is strong as hell. So down we go to that, but again, now we're going to get into Landorus here. We're just going to click Leaf Storm, and from this point, I do feel pretty darn confident about winning this game with Big Serp here. I am going to pivot into Blastoise here. We're going to see a Volt Switch, so again, nice aggressive Volt Switch. That's completely fine, though, once again, because now Milo has to come out. I go Serp, I just click Leaf Storm, and from there, I can kind of deduce that we're probably not overheating this last slot. So I'm just going to Signal Beam, do a nice little chunk to the Milo, and then one more time the Manectric's going to come in. I believe we live even crit Signal Beam from this point, because it's just not a very strong move. Maybe, I don't know. And we're just going to Hidden Power Fire so that we don't miss, knock out the Manectric, and take home a nice 3-0 victory in our Week 1 game. I think we definitely could have played for more diff, but I also wasn't worried about getting diff in the sense I really wanted to secure the win, and I didn't know the moveset for sure, at least lately, yet. So, yeah, that's going to be Week 1. Let's go to Week 2. Alrighty, gang, here we are with Week 2 against Kurt the Buzzwole. You can see he has some big threats, man. It's something with these fast electrics that really give me a lot of trouble, especially because we're not bringing the Stunfisk this week. That Raikou is a big threat into our team. I really don't like the combination of Thunderbolt plus HP Ice. I mean, nobody really does, but I especially do not appreciate it. Volcanion is a Pokemon that I don't switch into well, in the sense that the Pokemon that switch into Volcanion's dual stabs do not do a lot of damage back to it, and really don't appreciate getting burned by Steam Eruption. So it's going to be a Pokemon we're going to have to really maneuver around correctly. Clefable is always annoying. It's going to be a great check to something like Hydreigon, which does really well otherwise, so you got to be careful about that. Registeel is a big nuisance. Solid pivot into a lot of the team. Nothing really OHKOs it, and it can Thunder Wave things and be a nuisance. Hoopa doesn't have switch-ins. It never does. We do have some decent checks in the likes of, Diancie. We have some pretty fast U-turn on the squad, too, that always pressures it. It's just a matter of it, finding positions in. Shelly can always take it on with one hit at least. And then Zardex is a big problem. We have a lot of prep dedicated to big Zardex, because if not, it gets up a DD or a Swords Dance and the game can kind of just be over. So we're gonna have to, wrong one. Gonna have to be very careful about that. You can see our Celesteela this week. We are rocking out with a sub Autotomized set. We are Ironhead Earthquake substitute Autotomized with a ground DMZ. The combination of Earthquake plus Ironhead against this team is really strong. I mean, you saw the team that Kurt brought. Raikou, Volcanion, Registeel, and Zardex, once it Megas, are all weak to ground, and then the Steel Stab is going to be really strong into things like the Hoopa and the Clefable. We're not Heavy Slam this week, specifically because Hoopa is really heavy, and we don't do as much damage with Heavy Slam. Then we have Blastoise here, where Scald, Rapid Spin, Flash Cannon, and Dragon Balls pretty darn bulky, but also pretty offensive. If you look at this coverage into Kurt's team, it does really darn well. Outside of something like Volcanion, which we have to be careful of, but we could take on +1 Zard decently well enough. We can also take hits from the likes of Volcanion, spread some Scald burns, be a big nuisance. Dragon Balls is just for that Zard because we can Oko a lot of offensive variants. And we have a Choice Scarf, Hydreigon. We are physical this week. We are Outrage, U-Turn, Earthquake, and Crunch in this matchup. Hitting the likes of things like Volcanion and Raikou really, really hard with Earthquake. Obviously, we got to be careful about getting caught with a burn, but I really like being able to hit that Raikou really hard with a Scarf Earthquake in case it is a Calm Mind variant. And then Hoopa also just gets blown up by Adamant U-Turn. Just absolutely blown up. So it's another nice pivot into that guy. Then we have a Charcoal Victini here. We are Thunder Wave, V-Create, U-Turn, and Bolt Strike. Outside of Zard X, this Pokemon's super smoked. So really, once that Zard X starts taking some chip and getting whittled down, it's going to be great. We have Thunder Wave specifically for it, so that it doesn't set up on us for absolute free. And really, we do a ton of damage otherwise. So that's obviously really nice. Slowing down Zard X makes it a lot easier to deal with. And we have Serperior with Leftovers, Contrary, Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Ground, Glare, and Dragon Ball. So you can see we have a lot of pair spam on this team, or at least 2 Mons on our team that can spread some paras. And if you look at the combination of Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Ground, and Dragon Pulse, hits the team pretty darn hard. Unaware Clef can stop this set pretty well, but then it's Unaware F Clef, and it's not really that big of a threat to the team, to be completely honest. Then lastly, we have Fizdef Diancie here. We are Diamond Storm, Earth Power, Stealth Rock, and Trick Room in our last slot. Trick Room is to stop any kind of shenanigans and really flip the kind of the speed game in a lot of instances. If I have a Pokemon like, Diancie, and when Raikou comes in, and like revenges me or is going to 2-hit kill me, I can set up a Trick Room until I die and then get into something like Celesteela to revenge it, something like Victini to revenge it, which is pretty darn funny, or something like even Blastoise, right? It's going to really make those Pokemon a lot stronger here. And Victini or Trick Room isn't the worst thing in the world when we have something like Zard in the back. Now, I know obviously there are some really slow things, but those slow things in Registeel and Clef aren't super threatening, and if it's a faster Volcanion, once we click V-Create, we might be slower than it. And then Trick Room, we're going to be able to Bolt Strike it, potentially. And it's really just kind of anti-Zard measures, because Zard's really bulky and can super easily live a Diamond Storm, so I don't want that thing set up a Dragon Dance in my face, kill me, and then put me in a terrible spot. We're Fizdef for that thing, but we also check the likes of Hoopa. And yeah, that being said, let's go ahead, jump right on into the battle. We are going to see a Volcanion lead into our Hydreigon. I really value Chip on this thing because it really opens up Mega Blastoise to be a big nuisance. So getting off 48% on this thing is great for me. We do see a Steam Eruption. Thankfully, no burn into our physical Hydreigon, which is great. I'm not going to play around. I'm just going to go for another EQ. I didn't probably kill with that next EQ, but again, it completely eliminates that Volcanion from the equation, which is really nice. We're gonna go Victini on this Clef as Zard comes hard out. Again, no free Dragon Dances in this household, but we're gonna click Thunder Wave because if we live a neutral attack, even Earthquake, as we do see a DD come out. I'm gonna pivot hard Diancie here on a Thunder Punch, unfortunately get paralyzed, and from here I believe I actually do just select to get on my rocks. We get crit by this Earthquake. Now if we get a full pair from the Zard, that'd be great. Unfortunately, we don't, but we got up our rocks right, and now we're going to be able to get onto something like Blastoise. We're going to go ahead and Mega Evolve, click Dragon Balls, and pick this thing off, which is really, really nice. Also, with the pair, we guaranteed outsped that thing, so felt pretty comfortable in doing so, and we most of the time took a +1 Thunder Punch. I'm pretty sure we actually always took it, but yeah. We're going to see Hoopa come out, click a big knock off our Scarf, which is a little bit annoying for the Raikou, but not the absolute end of the world. We're going to be able to click a very, very free U-turn here, knock out the Hoopa, or get momentum as the Clef is going to come in next. Registeel is going to be the next pivot out, as I do click Substitute here, hoping that I can really whittle this thing down with Earthquakes, as we do see an Earthquake come out and only do 29, showing this thing is incredibly, incredibly Fizdef, to where I don't really take this on right now. So I'm just going to make that pivot out into Victini. I'm okay with taking a Thunder Wave on it, as it isn't super instrumental in this game. We're going to Thunder Wave on a potential switch out here, as we do just see an Earthquake from this Registeel, and this Charcoal boosted V-Create is going to do a ridiculous amount to this Registeel and knock it out. Hindsight, I don't really think Thunder Wave as a click really made much sense. I mean, there's not a switch in to this Pokemon. Something like Volcanion is just going to get 2-hit KO'd pretty freely. It can't really recover any damage as well. And I have a decent pivot in Hydreigon, which I can just sack off and then reposition, right? So I think that clicking that Thunder Wave kind of just made me take unnecessary damage for no reason, but it's also not a game-losing play, so I don't think it's the end of the world. But again, hindsight 2020, not the end of the world. We're going to see a Volt Switch knock out our Victini right here, as Clefable is going to come out. It's going to take some rocks, again showing that it is an unaware variant. Celesteela, we're going to come out. We're going to click Autotomize right here as this Celi, or as this Clef does. Click Flamethrower, just 39, so it is a 2-hit KO potentially. We're going to click an Adamant Iron Head into it, potentially get a flinch or knock it out. Raiku's going to come out. I am creeping non-Scarf Raikou at +2, guaranteed, but we are going to die to a Scarf Volt Switch. Again, good information to know. We also know that my Hydreigon isn't going to outspeed that thing, so again, more things to keep in mind. We also can kind of keep in mind what they're going to lock into. We see that this Clef is incredibly specially defensive, but because of that, I feel very comfortable just kind of spamming Flash Cannon until this thing runs out of Moonlights, because it's going to really open up my Serperior in the end game to keep this thing nice and low. So we do see a Toxic come out here, as we do see a pivot out into the Volcanion the next turn as a Flash Cannon. Thankfully, this thing is in range of a Dragon Pulse and ends up being very slow, so we're going to knock that guy out. Out comes Hoopa next instead of Raikou, which seemed like a pretty free win path, but we'll take the Skull Burn opportunity. This does show to be a pretty Assault Vest Hoopa. Again, we will absolutely take it. I'm just going to Scald until I go down here, as this Hoopa is once again going to click Drain Punch. We are not going to go down to the we are going to go down to the Toxic, sorry, at this point, but again, I feel pretty darn comfortable. I'm going to get out into my Serperior, not going to knock this thing out, but due to the burn, I mean, this Ice Punch just is not doing enough damage. It's not going to put me in range of any Raikou hit at all, and otherwise, we kind of just clean up this game. We're going to Hidden Power Ground, pick off this thing from 6%. Raikou is going to come out next. We are going to go ahead and see it click Hidden Power Ice, I presume. Only do 40% because Raikou is terrible. We're going to click the Hidden Power Ground, knock it out, and then lastly, it's just going to be Clefable. It's nice and low though, at 28%. We're going to be able to Leaf Storm, pick it off, and take home a nice 2-0 victory. I think this one could have been a lot cleaner. I think I played my Victini pretty darn poorly. I think I should have probably saved it for the likes of Clefable in the back, because if I missed that Leaf Storm, things could have gotten really, really bad. So I really wish I would have saved that. But again, nothing in the world. I think we ended up kind of figuring it out as we went. And yeah, we're able to take home a nice 2-0 dub in our next game here against Kurt. Let's go into week 3, I believe, against Ant. Week 3, we have a game against It's Whatever, and now I'm sure you see this is a Wi-Fi replay. Well, for the league, we did like make it known if you want to play on Wi-Fi or on Citra or whatever it might be, they are more than welcome to. It wasn't a requirement. This is the only Wi-Fi game we got this year. We also played Kurt on Wi-Fi initially, but the footage got corrupted when I tried to save the replay, so I actually had to remake that game on Showdown just so I had a replay to show for it. But this is our only Wi-Fi game that we were able to play. Otherwise, we tried to play one with the Kaz and we kept DCing. Just, you know, a ton of issues. But we at least get one Gen 7 Wi-Fi game, which is really, really cool. And we got it against my good buddy Antonio. Now, I do want to go ahead and show you guys the team that we're rocking, and has a ton of big threats with along the likes of Mega Gallade, Tyranitar, things of the sort. The team make a little bit more sense as we get into the battle, and you can see, you know, team preview and things like that. But you can see we have a Choice Scarf Victini, V-Create, Bolt Strike, U-Turn, and Brick Break. With that Tyranitar in the back, really the only time that we can bring, or the only thing we can click when we bring this thing in, is U-Turn, and Brick Break if the Heatar is in range. Otherwise, we are just clicking U-Turn the whole game. However, it's also a great revenge killer like the Mega Gallade, which really scares me. Then we have something like Blastoise here. Offensively, it does great. Now, there is a Tapu Fini, which we do have Hidden Power Grass for, which chunks it down a decent amount. Not going to do the most damage humanly possible, but outside of that Fini, there is nothing that takes on Mega Blastoise well. We have Water Pulse, Rapid Spin, and Aura Sphere. Rapid Spin is for the webs aspect on his team, and Rabambi if he did want to go with that. We then have Serperior here. We're Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Ground, Substitute, and Glare. Now, I won't lie to you, in actually like playing this game, I realized, oh shit, Ant has a Miltank. I forgot Miltank got Sap Sipper, and kind of have a set that gets stuffed by Miltank. However, if we get rid of Miltank, this set goes absolutely crazy, as Serp usually does, if we can find a way of eliminating that one big check. I won't lie though, I don't really have a great way of doing so outside of our next Pokemon and Celesteela here. We are rocking out with a Lumberry set this week. No Z-move again. We are Heavy Slam, Earthquake, Autotomize, and Substitute here with a lot of attack investment really, really fast. Now, why are we Auto, Sub, and Lumberry? All three in one. Well, the way I envision it is I really want to set up an Autotomize on something like Miltank, but Miltank is very likely to be able to go ahead and Thunder Wave me and really, really neutralize myself. So if I take that Thunder Wave with my Lumberry, I auto up. From that next turn, I can substitute and again put on a ton of pressure. Now, obviously, something like a Thunder Wave is going, or a Size Toss is going to break my sub, but otherwise, I can kind of just spam Heavy Slam, do a ton of damage, and if it's not a physically defensive Miltank, it's going to take a ridiculous amount. This also covers for Scald Burns from Tapu Fini because we are in the air, and I don't like that, so yeah. Then we have a Poisonium Z Hydreigon with Dark Pulse, Belch, Earth Power, and U-Turn. That Z Belch to Tapu Fini is going to nuke it, and the quicker we get rid of Fini, the more our Blastoise and Victini can kind of come in and do some damage. So I really like eliminating that Fini. Then lastly, we have the Stunfisk. We're rocking out with a static set Sugar Berry, Earthquake, Discharge, Stealth Rock, and Foul Play. Foul Play is really there for that Mega Gallade to do a ton of damage to it and really prevent it from wanting to Swords Dance in our face. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into the battle. I have it on 2x speed, so it should be plenty fast enough. We are going to go ahead and lead off with big Mega Blastoise. So we see Lime King, the Tyranitar, come right out here. Now, again, I feel pretty comfortable just going raw for Hidden Power Grass. This thing gets blown up by an Aura Sphere if it's weakness policy. It also can't really be Chople and Chople and Pasho at the same time. So I really feel like that Hidden Power Grass is super free in this instance. We do make that play correctly. We're going to go ahead and see the Mega Invasion. Are you guys so excited for this to come back in Legends ZA? I personally am. They better come back in a mainline game so I can draft Mega Blastoise in Gen 10. But we do a ton of damage with that Hidden Power Grass. It's really going to open up this Blastoise later on in the game, which is really nice. We also see that it is leftovers. Thankfully, the sand is actually going to chip that thing down pretty darn considerably. We're going to make the pivot into our Superior right here. Just because we take any hit neutrally really well, we'll be able to threaten this thing out. We do take a Moonblast and actually get a special attack raised due to our contrary boost, and that Moonblast dropping our special attack here. Now, again, this is when I kind of realized, like, damn, I don't really have a way of beating the Miltank down with this Superior because Superior doesn't beat Miltank. So I'm going to make a little pivot out. We're going to go ahead and make a big double out into Celesteal, and this is kind of the positioning that I was hoping for into this Miltank, as we do see the switch out into said Miltank. How I Walk comes out. I think Kurt Gen, this team form, did all Lime King nicknames because we were in a big Lime King phase. The leftovers are going to show there, so again, good information for me. I am just going to go ahead, autotomize up this turn. We do see the Thunder Wave come out. It does connect, and we go, oh no, I'm parried. Call an ambulance. But not for me. And we go ahead and eat our Lumberry, gonna get rid of that paralysis, get off a big autotomize, and again, it might be like, okay, well, I just need a Thunder Wave at this next turn. That's really not good. I need to make sure this thing is parried, as it is autotomizing in my mouth right now, and that's not a good thing. But little does he know, again, call an ambulance, but not for me. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a substitute. Sally's gonna get behind said substitute, and it is officially just Heavy Slam time. And there's not really much that takes us on. He's actually going to pivot out, showing that he most likely is not a Seismic Toss variant. The Fini's going to come out itself here. But this gets 2 KO'd from here, right? This is max base power, adamant Heavy Slam. This thing is going to take a ridiculous amount of damage. We do see it is very easily 2 KO'd. Even if it's leftovers, supposed to protect the next turn, there's no way this thing's getting out of range, and it's going to be able to deal with me accordingly. And because of that, it's Celesteal Snowball time. I mean, this is what this mon does best in Generation 7. Those of you who used it in Generation 8, or even if you're using your Nat Dex leagues, you might see it more defensively oriented. And defensive Celi is obviously absolutely incredible. I'm just going to talk about Celesteal as it just clicks buttons the rest of this game. We're going to go ahead and Earthquake, and I believe just knock out this Nidoqueen from full on there. Woo! But it is a little bit more defensive decline, especially in Generation 8. I spam draft Sally in Gen 8, and it's a lot of Leech and Protect and Helmets and, you know, Toxics when it could Toxic and things like that. But in this generation, especially with Z moves and the offensive prowess that it can kind of hold, we just pick up a win. And does go ahead and forfeit there at the end. You can see the rest of the team that he brought. I mean, O-Code, I think O-Code at that point. I mean, it was Raps at that point. So unfortunately, our one Wi-Fi game was a really quick one, but also fortunately, our one Wi-Fi game was a 6-0, which is a really good feeling. I miss Generation 7 Wi-Fi. For those of you who hadn't seen our old videos, you go watch my old videos on the channel. They're really bad, but it's cool to see how far we've come since then, and how much I miss Generation 7, because, oh man, was it a great time. I love playing on Wi-Fi, doing these little post-coms and things like that, but yeah, that's going to be our week 3. Nice 6-0 dub, 3-0 on the season. Let's go ahead and move into week 4. Week number 4 is upon us. We're playing against Big Keegan here. Big Kigo, he's got some big threats on his team. Things like the Latias and the Z Thunders, which is really scary enemy. Mega Scizor can get really out of hand really fast. Really, it's only my Celesteela that's kind of stopping it from kind of smoking me every time it comes in. I don't switch into fighting plus bug plus knock really well. So that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, it can be a big nuisance to our team. Muck matches up really well into the squad. I don't, again, have great switch into it. Curse can get really out of hand really fast and really worry me, as well as an Assault Vest variant or even just some kind of Recycling 3 attacks variant can get really scary. And then Azu always worries me. Now, obviously, offensive Azu is great, but I think that some kind of Sap Zipper set is also very viable. Some kind of specially defensive set to, you know, Whirlpool, trap things with Parasong and things of the sort. So, gonna have to be very careful about that guy. Let's go and take a look at the team that we're rocking out. We are a Steelium Z Celesteela this week with Heavy Slam, Flamethrower, Ultralize, and Stone Edge. Even with an Adamant Nature, my special attack, we still 2-hit KO the heck out of Scizor very easily. And I liked physical otherwise. I love Stone Edge to Oko Thunders. And outside of Thunders plus the Scizor, I mean, Heavy Slam just Okos this entire team once we get boosted, especially a Steelium Z boosted one. Then we have Mega Blastoise, who are pretty darn offensive, but decently bulky. We're Scald, Rapid Spin, Ice Beam, and Haze. Haze is for the likes of Alola Muck if it starts cursing up. Haze is for the likes of a Belly Drummed Azu. Haze is for the likes of even a Calm-Minded Latias if it gets a little bit aggressive, and even a Scizor as well if it starts Swords Dancing. Really, there's a ton of application. Outside of that, Skull plus Ice Beam always going to hit a team hard, and especially this one, we beat a lot of burns and are a big problem for the squad. And then from here, we have a Colbur Berry Victini. Very bulky on the set with V-Create, U-Turn, Thunder Wave, and Bolt Strike. Thunder Wave is, again, to catch things like Lottie coming in, really punish them for one switch in. Let him with an Adamant U-Turn really whittle them down, which is great. Outside of the Lottie, this Pokemon absolutely smokes. The combination of V-Create plus Bolt Strike is always going to be strong, and into this team, it is no different. We also have a specially defensive Audino. It is here to kind of just be a nuisance and Encore lock things. We have Wish to keep the Pokemon on our team healthy, Knock Off to get rid of items, then Wish and Toxic to round out the set. Again, a big nuisance to the team. I love the Encore for things like Muck trying to set up, and things like Latias trying to set up. If they want to Calm Mind in my face, that's fine. I'm going to be able to Encore lock you always and react accordingly. And then it's AV Serp time. AV Serp is really my best check to Thunder, so I don't have great counterplay to it. What I can do is I can always pivot and kind of still ball on it. Things like Sludge Wave aren't 2-hit killing me. Leaf Storm, Dragon Pulse, Hidden Power Fire, and Knock Off. I mean, Muck is always going to wall us, but if I can catch the thing with a Knock Off and either get rid of its Assault Vest or get rid of its Super Berry, which is really clutch on a set like that, we'll be able to kind of attack and, you know, adjust accordingly. Sap Zipper Azu is going to wall us regardless, so not super worried about that. But again, knocking that thing's leftovers off is really nice. And honestly, once things like Muck are gone and potential Sap Zipper Azu are gone, this thing goes crazy again. Serp is always just one Pokemon dying away from going absolutely haywire. Then, lastly, we have DNC here with a Berry. We are Moonblast, Diamond Storm, Hidden Power Fire, and Stealth Rock. Pretty decently offensive. This Pokemon does really well in this matchup offensively. The combinations of our Dual Stab plus Hidden Power Fire hit everything incredibly hard. I love being mixed. Diamond Storm is a great way of hitting Muck, but if it starts cursing, we can hit with Moonblast, which is nice. It's going to be a great rocker. Chip things down, get things like Thunders down in range of Celesteela, which is really clutch. Alrighty, that being said, let's just go ahead and jump on into it. We have a Piloswine leading to our Victini. It's a very free U-turn. I'll be able to chip this thing down, do a little bit of damage, get into our Blastoise, and spin away any hazards that want to go up. Keegan makes a nice play, clicks a really strong Earthquake, doing 36 to us, which isn't very nice. But again, I have a very free Scald. And now, this Azumarill coming in kind of reveals to me that this thing might be that Parastrap set, especially after the leftovers. Otherwise, Azumarill is not going to be willing to take that hit on. We are going to see a Toxic come out from the Azu. We're going to go ahead and Encore this thing in. And Toxics, again, doesn't really matter that it missed, obviously. And from here, we can make a pivot onto our Celesteela, and again, put on a lot of offensive pressure. Scizor is going to be the pivot out here. That's completely fine with me. I believe I clicked a very aggressive Stone Edge, expecting that Thunders to maybe want to pivot in aggressively. It is going to be the Latias instead. That Stone Edge doing 35 is really nice damage for us, though, and it really tells us that our Heavy Slam is going to be able to nuke through that thing soon. After taking a Thunderbolt, DNC is just going to go ahead and get up rocks, and Scizor is going to come out. I want to get into my Victini on a potential defog, but we see a U-turn instead, doing a lot of damage. A little bit unfortunate, but not the end of the world for us. We're going to see a double into Piloswine as I do U-turn. I'm not worried about Aqua Jet at this point. I know that this thing is not going to be an offensive variant. So we get more chip on Piloswine. Serp comes out. Just going to click knockoff, get rid of this thing's leftovers or the Piloswine's Eviolite, to be completely honest, as Audino is always going to be able to come out. I know I'm faster than this thing. I can always Encore Lock him and really just stun block him, which is great. Just going to click a Wish here. Not super worried about whatever this thing wants to click. And then from here, Victini's going to pivot out. I'm Colby Berry, so I know I take this knockoff really well. I'm going to be able to get all this health back, and again, gain some initiative with U-turn. That Latias really isn't coming out, showing me it's a very offensive variant, most likely. It doesn't want to take an adamant U-turn after rocks at all. I'm going to get out into Celesteela, click that Z Corkscrew Crash, and unfortunately, just barely miss out on the KO. Thankfully, Keegan actually ends up going for the Encore. I think that's valid, trying to stop me from autotomizing up, because the game could just be over if that was the case, but we're going to be able to pick this thing off with a Heavy Slam this next turn afterwards. Latias is going to come out, and again, I really don't want to take this Thunderbolt. I'm not convinced I can win with this thing just yet, so I am going to pivot out into my DNC here. Take this crit Thunderbolt, which probably would have killed my Celesteela because it was a crit, and Muck is going to come out next as I click an aggressive Hidden Power Fire, really trying to catch that Scizor. Fire Punch comes out for him, trying to catch my Celesteela really aggressively. I'm going to unfortunately miss my Diamond Storm, and now I'm going to be a douche, and I'm going to go hard Selly because I think he's going to click Poison Jab or Knockoff this time instead. Next, Scizor is going to come out. I do just click Heavy Slam, still do 23, which is pretty incredible. And from here, I feel pretty comfortable flamethrowing. Not really much wants to take this flamethrower, right? Something like Thundurus and Latias can take it, but they definitely don't want to take a Heavy Slam after, or Heavy Slam on the switch in. Same thing with Piloswine and Muck. And this thing trying to roost up, I can really block that thing from doing so. So I'm just going to actually, sorry, I lied. Dude, this is the crux of post-con. Sometimes you just fuck up your turns like that. I'm going to go ahead and autotomize on a Roost here. It covered him pivoting out and let me autotomize up, knock out the Lottie, which is great. Or it covered him roosting up, as he is going to go ahead and take a big flamethrower here as we do U-turn. As we do take a U-turn, Latias is going to come out next, but I mean, this guy ain't going to take this hit. We're just going to go ahead and Heavy Slam, knock this thing out, get that attack boost as Thundurus is going to come out. The way he brought this out made me think either Thunder Wave or potentially a Scarf variant. Don't want to take either of those, so I'm actually going to go ahead and sack off my DNC immediately. Doesn't really do anything, and I know that my Shelly can still win later at 81. I'm going to go into Serp solely to get off a knockoff because I want to secure that this thing is not a Scarf variant because it would outspeed my Shelly. It's actually a Z move since we didn't knock anything off, as the Muck is going to come out just next. We're going to go ahead and Leaf Storm because it would have, kind of compounded, done a lot of damage to that Thundy. And this next turn, just going to pivot Blastoise. No reason not to. Good mid-ground Fire Punch, but again, that's kind of my main pivot at this point. I could just Scald, chip this thing down. We know this thing is most likely going to solve this variant the way it's been played. And then the next turn, we're going to go hard on Celesteela on a Poison Jab. And from here, it's just kind of wraps at this point. We're going to go ahead and autotomize up. With this thing burned, it does no damage. And that's kind of the reason why we wanted to pivot into this thing, because I knew I could set up in his mouth very, very freely and still stay in a range of the priority in the back, as well as that Thundurus not being Scarf confirmed, which is great. I'm just going to go ahead and click Heavy Slam. No need to risk the miss. That is a +1 adamant Heavy Slam, doing at least 35 to a Thundurus. And from here, we're just going to clean up with a big Heavy Slam sweep. Sally just absolutely going haywire these last few games. I think I Stone Edge to flex, which is a stupid, stupid play, but you know me, stunt or die. So we're able to take home a nice 5-0 victory here against Keegan, moving us to 4-0 on the season. Alrighty, gang, here we are with week number 5, I believe it is, going up against Kaz. And Kaz is a really, really scary team. We got to play against Z Zygarde, which is something I never thought I would have to do again. But also Greninja, who can't be Protean or Torrent. This is old Gen 7 days. Silvally, Heatran, Uxie, and Mega Heracross. Now, going in this game, I'm sure you see there's a Gligar on our team. I made some transactions going forward. Part of it was because of this matchup. I had the worst Mega Heracross matchup I've ever seen in my life. So Gligar was kind of a byproduct of that. We ended up dropping Diancie, Audino, and Stunfisk for Gligar, Regirock, and Slurpuff on the team. So kind of replacing a lot of roles that we had, as well as getting a Sticky Web aspect to the team, which is pretty cool, and a nice solid pivot in Gligar. And looking ahead at the matchups going forward, there weren't any matchups where I was bringing Audino, and there weren't any matchups where I really wanted Stunfisk. So I felt pretty comfortable making the moves because these Pokemon matched up better into my matchups going forward. So yeah, that's why we ended up doing so. But again, you can see this team that Kaz has. Let's go ahead and jump into the squad that we brought this week. First up, we're rocking out with the Z-Fly Selly. We are Air Slash Earthquake Autonomized Substitute. We're still modest on the set because Heatran gets smoked by an EQ regardless. And I noticed Kaz has a tendency to lean towards like more offensive Scarf Heatrans on this team. I think he's brought in Scarf Heatran in most games, so it's not like it really takes an Earthquake well. It'll definitely get to it KO. That is for darn sure. And yeah, otherwise, I think Air Slash is really, really spammable. He doesn't have a flying resist otherwise. Substitute is for things like Uxie, as well as Pokemon like Heracross on the switch out. And he also had a Tangrowth on his team that he didn't end up bringing. So that's what Sub was here for. Then we have Victini. We are a Shukaberry variant. Blue Flare, Glaciate, Focus Blast, and U-Turn. Hits team really hard, to be completely honest. Focus Blast hits both the Heatran and the Gren incredibly hard. Glaciate for the Zygarde, and then we just click Blue Flare otherwise. So, really strong Pokemon in the matchup. Got an AV Serp here, Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Ground, Dragon Pulse, and Knockoff here. Pretty darn offensive. Something like Heracross is going to check us, but once that Heracross is chipped down, I think this Pokemon absolutely goes crazy. This is going to be our main Greninja check as well. We can take Ice Beams on from it pretty darn well. We also naturally take on, you know, Thousand Arrows and things like that from Zygarde. So another, solid thing here. We have a Mega Blastoise. We're pretty offensive this week, actually. With Scald, Ice Beam, Rapid Spin, and Aura Sphere. Offensively, it's really, really strong, but we can naturally live a hit from Gren, Zygarde. We check Heatran just naturally really well, and we can even live a hit from things like Heracross unless they're bullet seeding into us, so that's obviously really nice. We have a pretty specially defensive Gligar here. Now, we don't really need a lot of Fizz Def to check the Heracross, so I want to make sure we, weren't worried about that. We're Earthquake, Aerial Ace, U-Turn, and Roost in this game. Really wanted to fit Rocks, but I really wanted Roost to be able to roost up in that Heracross's face, as well as that Uxie, and, potentially, Roost, U-Turn, and kind of deal with it that way, which is nice. We are a little bit of fodder for the likes of Zygarde, but there's also going to be a good Heatran check in the sense that we are pretty darn specially defensive. Then we have Scarf Hydreigon. If you look at Kaz's team, unless he's still Volley Fairy, he does not have a Fairy. This is a great revenge killing option into his squad. Earth Power for the Heatran, everything else dies to Draco. Pretty much is how it goes. Dark Pulse is just a little bit more consistent stab-wise. But yeah, that being said, we can go ahead, jump right on into this game. We are going to see a lead Greninja in my Victini, and I'm going to play a little bit aggressively here. I realize, again, I don't particularly switch well into Gren, but if I know Kaz, I know he's really going to want to scout for a potential Scarf variant. Absolutely blowing him up. We live any non-choice variant, and I think the only way he stays in here is if he's some kind of Sash lead set, and we will live a hit and I'll be able to gain momentum or punish him going for a Spike, which is really nice. So I am just going to go for U-Turn. Heatran comes out. Hindsight, maybe the aggressive play I should have made was Focus Blasting because it covered this mid-ground right here, but completely fine. I'm going to get on to Blastoise, and this is the freest Scald I've ever seen in my life. Uxie is going to come out right here. Gonna hit it with a big Scald, 27%, not get the burn, and it gets it back, so this is like max specially defensive, and again, hindsight 2020, I don't think I necessarily should have straight in on this thing, right, because I do 1v1 it in a sense, right, I'm not super threatened by this Pokemon, but letting this thing get parried like it's going to happen right here as I go for another Scald and, end up getting the burn, which is really nice, this thing's very low now, letting this thing get T-Waved is really, really tough because this Pokemon is incredible in this matchup, and it getting rolled down really opens me up to Heatran, it really opens me up to Zygarde and Greninja, which I don't have good counterplay to, so I don't think that was necessarily a great play, me doing so. He's going to be able to try and get out some rocks right here as we do Scald, bring it down to range of another Scald here, but he does reveal the Thunderbolt, which is a little bit unfortunate. I'm going to try and spin, but especially because this is old Gen 7 spin, and it's not doing any damage, and I'm not gaining speed boost, I'm not really going to be able to prevent this thing from rocking for me unless I get insanely lucky, right? Really the only way it doesn't is if I can avoid a ton of pairs. At this point, I'm kind of reserved to sacking off my Blastoise to attempting to do so, just because of the fact that it doesn't really do anything at 44% parried. Don't have a way of healing it up or anything like that either, so we are just going to kind of spam Rapid Spin and hopefully keep these rocks away, but eventually it's going to get to a point where it's very much so in Kaz's favor to eventually get a pair on me, right? I've been sitting here for an hour trying to get these rocks away, and it eventually happens right there. So rocks are going to go up, and from this point, Uxie's just going to be able to pick me off. And now that means rocks are up for the game, which is really bad for my Victini, which looked incredible in this matchup. Now having to come in and take rocks, really not a good look for me. I'm going to go ahead and Leaf Storm this upcoming turn, do a ton of, or pick off this thing, get it to +2, which is nice. Out comes Heracross next, as it does click a very, very free knockoff. There's no universe in which I can be, or it clicks a very, very free bulk up, into a knockoff, as there was no way that I could be like a Hidden Power Fire set in that matchup. After the bulk up and the knockoff, we hit a big Aerial Ace, bring this thing down into range of, something like Victini in our team, but it is going to be able to 1v1 our Gligar, because of the knock into the Bullet Seed, picking us off, getting rid of our Eviolite. I'm going to go Victini, and I think he really does want to save this thing because it's still a good SERP check. It still lives Dark Pulse. It still has a lot of hits, to be completely honest, really, unless your name is Victini or Selly, and it outspeeds Selly and can just hit it with a really hard close combat. So I don't expect him to want to sack it off when he has a fire immunity and a psychic resist in the back and Heatran, so I am going to U-turn out. Didn't feel comfortable focus blasting. Again, kind of playing a little bit passive in that regards, I guess. We're going to get into Hydreigon Earth Power on the Silvally Fairy, which is a little bit unfortunate, meaning that this Scarf Hydreigon endgame is not as likely as I thought it was going to be. We're going to see a Scarf Dragon Pulse come out from Heatran as we do end up missing our Focus Blast. Unfortunate. Obviously we didn't kill from there, but getting the chip on that thing would have been very, very clutch and incredible. We're going to go ahead and Z-Fly on his switch into Zygarde, do a ton of damage to this guy right here. Good 60%, which is always really, really nice. Keep in mind we do have our Victini sack, so we're going to go ahead and pivot into that. Sack it off the rocks as our arrows are going to fail. Get out into Superior, and again, I'm just going to start clicking a little Leaf Storm action as we do go ahead and miss the first time into Zygarde. A little unfortunate. Keeping as much health in this thing as possible would have been great. We are going to not pick it off with the Leaf Storm right here. Again, unfortunate, but what can you do? E-Speed's going to come out. It's not going to pick us off, so we're going to be able to pick it off with the Dragon Pulse. Unfortunately, this means that Heatran, Gran, whatever wants to come in can kind of come in, revenge us. Realistically, I guess the health didn't matter, because I don't think I would have lived from 30 to a Scarf offensive Heatran Lava Plume anyway, so at the end of the world, I'm going to go into Hydreigon here. Again, I'm going to just go ahead and click a big U-turn. Don't expect this Heatran to be sacked off, as it is probably the best silly check. I'm going to go ahead and try and autotomize up either on a Thunder Wave Miss or a Flamethrower or something like that to see if maybe we can put ourselves in a position to hopefully pick up the game. Autotomize does go faster than this Silvally, so that means if I would have subbed, I would have been in a better spot. In hindsight, maybe that was the better play. Just because if he missed and he was faster anyways, that was kind of like my out anyway. So I think subbing was probably my play because I could have subbed, autoed, and gone from there. Heatran's going to come back out. It's just going to pick me off with a Lava Plume. It's faster than me. It's Scarf. And from here, I go Hydreigon, Hard Shell Volley. And from there, it is just going to be one multi-attack away. Down goes Hydreigon, and unfortunately we're going to take our first loss in a pretty convincing fashion. We got our asses kicked in this one by Kaz. Definitely not my happiest or not my best performance. I think I played the Blastoise really, really bad. And I think those mid-ground U-turns I was clicking with Victini, I'm probably better off just Focus Blasting. If I'm expecting a switch into Heatran, I need to click a button that's going to punish the Heatran, right? It's not like there's a good Focus Blast resist on this team. Silvally and Heracross both get nuked by Blue Flare. The Uxie was already gone at, you know, the point of a lot of those predictions and things of the sort. It's not like Victini, or in that first like game or turn one scenario, it's not like it can come in because it doesn't know my set. Like if I'm like banded or something like that, it just gets blown up. That's not good. So again, you live and you learn. What can you do? We're gonna go ahead and jump on into week number 6. Week number 6 against my good pal Kirby. Now, I'm sure you see the Showdown account as always work. We actually played this game on Wi-Fi, and I wish I would have had it to you guys. I think I said it a little bit earlier in the video, but unfortunately footage got corrupted, so I had to recreate the game on Showdown after the fact, but got it down pretty much to a T on how it happened in the game, so not super worried. You can see Kurt's team in this matchup. He has Garchomp, Hariyama, Rotom, Mega Kangaskhan, Mesprit, and the Weavile. Lots of big threats, but honestly, this matchup into Kurt, I cannot lie to you, it was absolutely insane. Let's go into the team that we have this week. First up, we have a Victini. It is just a standard Flame Charge 3 attack set. Great win condition. If we could chip out in the likes of Hariyama, because we don't have a Psychic move, we can chip down Mesprit and Rotom. This thing can super win. Sugar Bear plus Glacier is going to be a great way of living a Scarf Garchomp hit after, you know, we get up a Flame Charge potentially and not be revenged by that guy. So great win condition. Speaking of great win conditions, Kurt doesn't have a Grass Resist on his team. So we're rocking out with a Leaf Storm, Giga Drain, Glare, and Synthesis Superior with a Yachi Berry. Yachi Berry is really just for that Weavile. I thought about just going Scarf in this game, but I didn't like being revenged by Ice Shard once, you know, Sharp ended up taking a hit, so ended up not going with that. This thing can keep itself healthy as well as just completely compound and steamroll through Kurt's team. Then we have Mega Blastoise here. We're a pretty darn defensive set with Scald, Ice Beam, Rapid Spin, and Toxic. Going to be a great Weavile check, great Garchomp check, even a decent enough Mega Kangaskhan check. Since it's just going to naturally live hits, it's going to be a Rapid Spin. It's mostly here for Garchomp, though. Then we have this is a really fun team, man. We have another fun set in Hydreigon. We are Steelium Z. I forget the fairy card had on his team, but it was something very relevant because we're Dragon Pulse, Charge Beam, Flash Cannon, and Substitute. This is before the days of Nasty Plot Hydreigon, so we have to use Charge Beam, but there are a lot of instances in which we can get it off. Things like the Rotom aren't going to be able to break our sub. Switch out into Pokemon like Mesprit, or from Pokemon like Mesprit, or even something like Garchomp's Scouting Sound. Really, our main sub goal is going to be that Rotom. We get behind a sub, start Charge Beaming, and then we throw off some really strong Dragon Pulse plus Flash Cannons here. Then we have Slurpuff. This, in conjunction with that Hydreigon, with the Blastoise, with the Victini, and even our Shelly, is going to be really solid. I think webs are great in this matchup. If Kurt doesn't bring Defog on his Rotom, we're going to be able to go to town with this. They're a physically defensive variant because it's also going to check Pokemon like Mega Kangaskhan, Weavile especially, which are really, really scary in the squad, and even Garchomp, Max Fizz-Diff, Slurpuff making his debut. And then we have a weakness policy, Autonomize Sally. We are Flash Cannon, Auto, Energy Ball, and Air Slash on this set. The reason we're not like some kind of Lum variant for Thunderwave Rotom is because I've been running a lot of Lum and a lot of Sub Selly this season, so I really do think that Kurt's going to try and use, you know, more offensive means to stopping this thing. But once it gets set up, it gets that auto, that weakness policy, our dual stats plus Energy Ball hit everything insanely hard. So I'm hoping that this set can pop off. Alrighty, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle. We are going to lead off with our Slurpuff. I want to get my webs up ASAP. There's also nothing on this team that immediately threatens me. Literally at all. So I am going to go ahead and get at my webs as Kurt Mega Evolves and shows that he is a power-up punching variant of Mega Kangaskhan. Thankfully, we're here to take something like this on just perfectly. I am going to get at my webs as I do 33% to this Kangaskhan just by existing. Do another 33% just by existing, as we just barely live the return. Player off only does 22, which is so sad, but thankfully that last return is going to be able to pick us off here. Next up, we're going to have the Rotom come out as I go into my Hydreigon. This is fine. I want to get behind a sub, put some pressure on. Unfortunately, Kurt does go for a Thunder Wave, is going to go ahead and miss that. Let's do Dragon Pulse. I just want to get some damage off. I really want to punish that Hariyama for coming in as well. I know this thing can't like necessarily win just yet. I am going to Charge Beam this next turn as Hariyama is going to come out. I get a nice special attack boost. I'm going to go ahead and Dragon Pulse, get off a clean 35 as an Ice Punch pops. And I'm going to go ahead and just Steelium Z here. Now that might sound weird. Kurt scouting for Dragonian, right? Because Dragonian would kill him from there. But the reason I'm going to pop Steelium Z is, again, my main endgame goals are going to be Victini, Superior. Those guys can super smoke when this very obviously Assault Vest Hariyama is whittled down and chipped. Steelium Z has a chance to kill some AV variants, probably not the set that Kurt was based on the calcs, but it puts him down into a position where he doesn't do anything afterwards. Hariyama also does not get Drain Punch this gen, so it wouldn't be able to heal up. So I'm just going to pop a Steelium Z into this Rotom right here. So he was scouting for that Dragonium, sacking off the Rotom, but this is great because now I just get off of another free sub, and I'm going to be able to get the same kind of deal off, but just with a little bit more chip on Rotom. I'm going to go ahead and Dragon Pulse, bring this thing down to, 18%. Then we're going to pick it off with a nice second Dragon Pulse. Out comes Garchomp. Just going to sack this off. Don't want this thing set up for free. I'm going to go ahead and Dragon Pulse. We unfortunately don't kill it. Out comes Serp. One Leaf Storm, and based on that damage from 46, we definitely kill with another one, or we definitely kill the Giga Drain, sorry. And what Giga Drain is going to allow me to do is this is going to make it to where Weavile actually cannot come in and revenge kill me at all. It does not kill me from 75, even with a Banded Crash, I believe. So I'm just going to go ahead and Leaf Storm into this Mesprit right here. Red card is going to force me out as Kurt sets up a Trick Room. Definitely a really cool sequence from here. He knows he can live one hit, set up a Trick Room, flip the speed, and hopefully put me in a bad spot. Sally's gonna come out and, we'll take that. I'm just gonna go ahead and attack this thing. This thing ends up being very slow. Flash Cannon is going to pick it off, so down that goes. And what this is gonna do is this is going to force in the Rotom right here. Rotom's gonna come in, it's gonna Volt Switch, out comes Weavile, but the only issue for Kurt is this is a Weavile in the Trick Room that he set up. So this is actually a really good position for me. I can kind of use my Victini in a way that's going to take advantage of his Trick Room. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go Victini. I'm just gonna go ahead, pop a Blue Flare, do a ton of damage, and you can say, oh, and why didn't you Energy Ball in the prediction into Rotom? No, that's fine. I want you to keep in mind the Trick Room turns. We have one turn left. We do not die to any one hit that this Rotom goes for. Guaranteed. All we can do is we can position ourselves with a Flame Charge to get +1 speed, not only guaranteed outspeed this Rotom next turn, which we already did, but drop an Energy Ball, kill this guy. He does show to be Rindo, which makes sense. And then Weavile's going to come out. Because of our +1 speed, we have speed outside of Trick Room. We do not die to Ice Shard from here. We're going to go ahead, pick it off, win the game in a nice 3-0 fashion. So that was cool, being able to speed the Weavile inside of Trick Room and outside, and it wasn't even my Trick Room. I think we played that well. I think Kurt had a really bad matchup, though, to be completely and utterly honest. So yeah, that was a tough one. No grass resistant to Serp, no real silly answer. The Hydreigon went absolutely crazy, and the Webs Slurpuff eliminating that Kangaskhan immediately was incredibly clutch for us. So we'll take it. Let's go ahead and move on to week number 7. Alrighty, next up is week 7 against my good buddy Jason Diatai. This is a long one, so we're gonna have to jump right into it. You can see the team that Jason's got. He's got Mega Altaria, Skuntank, Excadrill, Tornadus, Keldeo, and the Jellicent. Now, as for the team that we are rocking out with, we're actually rocking out with the defensive Cell Steel. I haven't done it in a minute, but that Mega Alt plus that Excadrill offense really does worry me. So we have Heavy Slam, Flamethrower, Leaf Seed, and Protect in this game. Really annoying Pokemon for Jason to take down. Even, like, it's going to be like Heat Wave Torn. It's like his way of hitting that thing hard. And I guess, like, you know, Flamethrower and Fire Blast Altaria. But other than that, doesn't do all too well hitting us or breaking us down. We have a 4-attack Chocoberry Victini. Who would have thunk it? When you're playing against sand, it's usually a pretty nice thing to have. Then we have a pretty darn offensive Blastoise. Does really well in this match, to be completely honest. Decently physically defensive and bulky, but mostly it's just going to Clean Scald, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, and Rapid Spin to keep those hazards away. Subglare Serp is always going to be the move into something like a Tornadus matchup, where Leaf Storm, Hidden Power, Ice, Glare, and Substitute can really steamroll in an endgame scenario once Skuntank is chipped, and if Torn is paired, and we get behind a sub. That's always a really, really good win condition. And we have Hydreigon here. We are Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, Roost, and Dark Pulse. Really, really strong Mon in this matchup overall. I completely forget what the fairy... Oh, it's a Mega Alt. So we're stealing MZ for the Mega Alt to be able to blow that thing up. And Mega Torque cannot set up on us. And then we're a mixed defensive Regirock making his debut. Stone Edge, Stealth Rock, Toxic, and Earthquake. Here to check that Mega Alt especially, as well as that Tornadus, which could be a big, big problem. Thankfully, Torn can't Nasty Paw this gen, but like Focus Blast and Grass Dawn, things like that are definitely really annoying. So let's go ahead and jump in. We do see a Jellicent lead into our Superior, which is great. The freest glare of all time is going to be clicked right here, as the Torn is kind of forced in either Torn or Skuntank. We're seeing Icy Wind come out into our Torn here, or into our Regirock switch in here. As a U-turn's going to pop this next turn, I'm going to go ahead and get up my Stealth Rock, because they're going to be great in chipping down the rest of the team. Again, things like Torn, things like Alt, they don't have Boots as an option in this generation, and Alt in general, because it's a Mega and it hasn't Mega'd yet. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my Torn. I'm going to switch out into Regirock right here. I'm going to try and make a double, expecting him to not want to risk the para, because he did get parried. If I just Stone Edge, he would have just died, but it's okay. There's 3 paras in a row. Really inspiring gameplay. I'm going to go ahead and do it again. As he does just U-turn. Again, I think I was yelling. I think we were playing this game and Colin was yelling at him because I was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you like this? Why would you do such a thing? Make the pivot out into Regirock again, as a Hidden Power is going to come out from this Skuntank. I'm not sure which Hidden Power, but it's not going to do much damage. That is for darn sure. Maybe it was like... Actually, I genuinely have no idea. I'm going to be able to click a very free Earthquake, as the Excadrill is actually going to want to come in here. Pivot onto Blastoise to take on any hit from this thing. Fling Iron Ball comes out this next turn, though. Rocks are going to go up, as I do just click a Dark Pulse, knock this thing out. Would have hit that Jellicent on the switch, and was my main thought. Next, Keldeo is going to come out. I am just going to go ahead and Rapid Spin. I want these rocks away ASAP, and they're gone for the entire game if I can get the spin off. Now, Jason's going to click Calm Mind here. I'm like, ah, shit. I should just kind of, you know, chip this thing down, try and deal with it accordingly. But then I start realizing, oh no, Owen, if you burn this thing, which you did, now you can't Toxic it with your sturdy Regirock, and you might lose now. I'm going to go ahead and spam Scald at this point. We're going to put this game on fast, because it's a really long one, to be completely honest. As Calm Minds are coming out, we're not Haze, and I cannot lie to you guys, at this point, I was like, oh shit, the game's over. Like, this is Wraps. This has to be Wraps, right? We're going to go ahead, keep clicking Scald, hopefully try and whittle this thing down. I'm going to go into Superior on this upcoming turn, try and, you know, break this thing down just a little bit. We're going to Leaf Storm and at least break Sub, which is nice, but we're in very easy range of a +3 Secret Sword, so we're going to just go down right there. Is that +4 even? It's +4. Scald's going to come out. We do guaranteed live a hit because of our sturdy. Unfortunately, while we're burning all of these resources for the likes of Altaria and Tornadus and even Skuntank, this Earthquake isn't even going to take out this Keldeo, which is so unbelievably bad. We're going to go ahead and go down to a Scald right here. And at this point, I'm like, this is wraps. Thankfully, our defensive Celesteela is going to live a hit. We can click Heavy Slam, knock this thing out, but this is an incredibly important member to our team up to this point. I'm going to go ahead and click Protect here, scout for a Pursuit. We do see a Dark Pulse, so I really just have to hope this isn't Pursuit. I need the Selly around, I need to keep it healthy. We're going to see a Fire Blast come out into our Hydreigon. Obviously, if this thing's play rough, it can knock us out right here. I'm just going to Corkscrew Crash, do about 40. Is it Hidden Power Ices, I guess, and gets a crit? 38 really is not that much. That Fire Blast Burn is really going to suck, though, because it's going to force us into a lot more Roost turns than we would actually typically need to click. So we're going to put it on Hyper Fast here. At this point, it's just me trying to try and whittle down this Skuntank. And this is going to be a weird sight for you Gen 9 players and things like that. Another crit right there. Is all of the Roost and recovery turns that happen in this game. Because of the recovery nerf in Gen 9, you don't see things like this anymore. I mean, at this point, I would have already used, 5 of my 8 Roosts? 6 of my 8 Roosts? Yeah, 7? I'd have one more at this point, which is crazy. I haven't even hit that halfway point. I'm going to get into Celesteela right here. I'm just trying to passively get some leftovers recovery back and protect. We're going to get back out into Hydreigon. Again, I understand this is a little bit slow. Not the most exciting and invigorating gameplay. But again, just going to click Protect here. As Torn comes out, I'll take that. That gives me an extra Protect turn. We're already back up to about 40%. I get into Blastoise, click Ice Beam, knock that guy out. Next, we're going to go to Blastoise, Ice Beam on this Altaria right here, as it does take us out with a return the following turn. We just barely missed on the KO, but thankfully, we do have a Shuka Berry Victini, and I'm pretty sure as long as we don't get insanely unlucky and never crit this thing, we should slow down a little bit. We should be able to 1v1 this thing with Dazzling Gleams up to this point. So we're going to go ahead and continuously click it over and over again. We brought this move specifically to hit Altaria as hard as possible, but as you can see, this thing's insanely fat. It's such a fat mon. Really obnoxious in general. We do 50 there, so we're doing upwards of 50, which is nice. Usually in the low to mid 40s or mid-ish 40s. Just gonna go ahead and click cooking it. That's a really low roll. Get out into our Celesteela right here. And I believe this is the turn in which we click Leech Seed. So this is going to be a double dancing Altaria, Jason's absolute favorite set. The idea is probably to set up on Heavy Slam Selly. You get up a Cotton Guard, you start setting up DDs, and eventually you'll break through with returns. The only issue is he's already used half of his Roost, and now with this Leech Seed up, we're in a really good position to go ahead and just Dazzling Gleam through this thing. As we are going to go ahead, get a little bit of health back. We know this thing is not EQ, so we're good. We're going to go ahead and Dazzling Gleam, and after Leech Seed, down it goes, which is great. Out comes the Jellicent. I'm just going to go ahead and sack off my Victini, try and get off some damage. You do get a Spadef drop, which is really nice. As a Dazzling Gleam comes out, out comes Skuntank this upcoming turn. I make an aggressive play, just click a nice blue flare, and I want to try and pick this thing off if at all humanly possible. He has not shown Sucker Punch, and he's shown pure special, so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have it. Unfortunately, he does have it. Definitely unfortunate. Fire Blast is going to come out into Selly, but Selly is ungodly fat, so we're going to go ahead and get a big Leech Seed off on this upcoming turn. At this point, we're going to go back up to Hyper Fast because we're going to Heavy Slam trying to pick this thing off. I didn't think you'd sack it. That's why I Leech Seeded the first turn, but he ends up making that play the second turn. We're going to go ahead and just click Dark Pulse. We do see a Colbur Berry and a Dazzling Gleam, so unfortunately, we do end up going down. The only unfortunate thing is our Selly can't really hit this thing, right? We're Flamethrower, Heavy Slam. We do get disabled there. Flamethrower, Heavy Slam, Leech Seed, and Protect. So we're really just going to have to whittle this thing down and stall it out of recoveries. There's really no other play. We also have to hope for not a lot of Spadef drops. We also have to just hope for no Skull Burns as well, because it's really going to whittle us down really fast. You can see this thing is not making much net progress, though. So that's obviously incredibly nice. We also know that he's most likely not a taunt variant, or he would have already taunted me. So again, all things to keep in mind, things that we know. We're going to go ahead and Protect. We're going to have to start playing a little bit smarter with our PP. It's crazy to think that this Celesteela was on like 9% at one point in the game. This is Draft League before it was just offense, Terra Button, Herder. So take notes, Gen 9 kids. This is peak performance at its finest. You may not want to admit it, but this is the male body and peak performance. It's just Celesteela sitting here. Sorry, I gotta drink coffee. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and keep whittling this thing down. I got on hyper fast, I promise. We're at about almost turn 100 at this point. I don't think I've played a single Gen 9 Draft League game that has gotten to 100 turns. This gets me there on a Protect. Up at this point, I do still have a good amount of PP, and Jason has just about no recovers left. He is at 3 out of 16. So we just need to stall out 3 more. He has to click it right here. 2 more. There we go. Gonna go ahead and once again, I believe, just click Flamethrower. Again, we keep getting disabled on the right move up to this point, which is really nice. Because I don't really need Flamethrower, I guess is the way of putting it. We're gonna go ahead. Shadow Ball also has gotten a Spin F drop up to this point, so we are taking a little bit more damage. We get the second one right here. We do see there are no more recovers up to this point, so Shadow Ball is going to come out. We are going to get disabled in this last turn, and this is a little bit big lead. That is not good, because we would be able to Heavy Slam, just knock this thing out. Unfortunately, I am going to Protect. I'm -2 special defense, which is really, really freaking bad. Then we're going to see a Dark Pulse Flinch. This is also really, really bad. Up to this point, the Celestial actually was going to clutch this game, right? The 2 Spin F drops I'm not going to cry about, because I sat in there for 700 turns. Eventually, Shadow Balls were going to get drops. But getting Curse Bodied on that last turn, when I killed it with Heavy Slam, and then, getting Dark Pulse flinched right here was so unbelievably bad, because what this is going to do, it's going to put me in range of Fire Blast. And unfortunately, we are going to lose the game. This is a tough one. Sitting through 105 turns just to kind of get, flinched into dying after getting Curse Bodied. Definitely frustrating, but I think I also could have played those endgame turns a little bit tighter. I don't think I should have risked my Heavy Slam getting disabled. I probably should have just clicked Flamethrower, let it die, then I would have been able to Heavy Slam, knock out the Skuntank, and just won the game, but what can you do? That was also a roll on that Fire Blast, by the way, if I'm remembering this game correctly. So, longest game of the season for us, and it ends in absolute heartbreak in this one. So, GG to Jason, though. I mean, he played it well. The Skuntank clutched up. This is a fun one, though. I remember we played in Column. We were shit-talking the whole time, so it was a good time. But, yeah, let's move on to Week 8. Alrighty, final game of the regular season. We are going up against Grandmaster D-Ray. The Grandmaster himself, he's got a pretty scary Rain offense team. Coco Medi is my favorite offensive core to use in Gen 7, so that's obviously really scary. He has the Rain aspect, he has the Alolan Raichu, and the Crocodile. Lots of big threats on Daniel's side. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we are rocking out with this week. So, we see the Colbert Very Victini is going to be a soft check to things like Medicham, in the sense that it lives a hit and can do a lot of damage. You're speed tying it, just want to do a lot of damage. Again, not really worried about not being too KO'd by it, because it's just going to. It's a Medicham. But Colbert's also going to allow us to live, Scarf Knockoff and Pursuits from the likes of Crocodile, which I'm a little bit worried about. Obviously, it can EQ me as well, but I think it's a little bit harder of a click into my team with both Selly and Gligar on it, but we'll get into that. We have Dazzling Gleam to hit and Medicham and Kingdra, Thunder to hit Pelipper, and then Blue Flare for the other guys. And obviously there was other things in the team that, that covered. We're also Wakanberry Celesteela, once again an offensive variant, which seems odd in the rain, but if we can eliminate the Kingdra and stay out of range of the Raichu because of our Wakanberry, this set can super smoke through D-Ray's team. Air Slash, Flash Cannon, Hidden Power Ground. Hidden Power Ground does about the same amount as modest Earthquake, or mixed nature Earthquake into a lot of the team that we would be clicking it into. So I didn't really want to lose out on any bulk or any offenses, so I ended up just going HP Ground. Really, there's only a couple clicks it's going to be clicked into anyways. Then we have AV Scorperior. Does really well in this matchup. There's a Ferrothorn on the bench which you get Hidden Power Fire for, but otherwise, Lee Storm, Giga Drain, Miracle hits everything. There's not a Grass Resist on the team other than that. Miracle is a great way of OHKOing the Kingdra if, we haven't gotten a Lee Storm boost up yet, so I really like that. Obviously, Dragon Pulse didn't OHKO either, so something to keep in mind. Giga Drain was decently healthy. Mirror again, is nice when we're not boosted if we need to revenge something in that way. And yeah, just a really strong Pokemon in this matchup, and is actually going to be our lead. Then we have a pretty mixed defensive Blastoise, Scald, Rapid Spin, Dragon Pulse, and Ice Beam. Dragon Pulse to hit the Kingdra. It's a decent soft check to Kingdra in that sense. Otherwise, we're just clicking Scald, Rapid Spin, and Ice Beam. Burning things like, it wasn't Scizor, or it wasn't Ferrothorn, it was Scizor that he has, sorry. But yeah, decent, solid mixed defensive pivot. We're Chople Berry, Regirock. I have nothing for Medicham. We're Stone Edge, Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, and Counter in this game. Hopefully with our Sturdy, we can counter that Medi. Other than that, it's here to just kind of rocks up, get T-Waves off, and be a big nuisance. And lastly, we have a Max Spin F Gligar. It's going to be our main Coco Raichu check. We will live Hidden Power Ices from them pretty darn freely, and be able to U-turn around, EQ, deal with them sufficiently. So, yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle. So we are going to lead off with our Superior. Like I said, this thing goes absolutely crazy. We see a lead Crook and his Intim. I'm just going to click Leaf Storm. There's not a single grass resist on Daniel's team. When you click Leaf Storm, something dies. That's just how this goes. Next up, Pelipper comes out. And if this isn't max specially defensive Pelipper, this thing just dies from full. So we're just going to go ahead, click Leaf Storm. It is very specially defensive, but thankfully, D-Ray actually elects to U-turn. Again, all good things. I lived Hurricane pretty comfortably because of my Assault Vest, but we'll take a U-turn as well. Kingdra comes out. This guy dies to Leaf Storm. We are at +4. Ice Beam comes out, does 65, is Specs, and gets the freaking freeze. I don't think you guys realize how much this sucks. Picking off this Kingdra was huge in this game. You can see me tweaking in the game chat. We're going to go Blastoise because we know this is Specs based on damage. He's going to pivot out here, but I get off a nice rain boosted Scald into this Raichu. Do about 80%, which honestly I didn't think it would live, to be completely honest, but In Power Ice is going to pick off our Superior as I do pivot it out. This thing is Life Orb, so again, good things to know. Gligar is going to come out here. I'm just going to go ahead and click U-turn. I don't have anything faster than this, unfortunately, because my Superior is dead. We're going to go ahead and U-turn out, get into our Victini, as Kingdra is going to be the pivot. I want this thing to lock into a water move or something like that, hopefully. We're going to see a Draco Meteor pick off our Gligar. This is going to allow our Celesteela a good position. I don't really think there's any reason to set up yet, as it doesn't super win, because there is still that Kingdra in the back. I am just going to go ahead and click Flash Cannon here. Do a lot of damage to this Coco, which is really nice. Thunderbolt's going to come out. I'm going to take this Wakan Berry damage. And since this rain ended right here, actually, we are going to go ahead and click Autotomize here. Going to go ahead and click Flash Cannon. Good sack by D-Ray, not sacking off the Coco, which would have been a little bit nicer. Thankfully, this Pelipper does live one. So, again, stalling a rain turn, which is nice. But Kingdra's going to be able to come back out, revenge us pretty succinctly. And, yeah, unfortunate. Not great for us. So, this next turn, Mega Blastoise going to come out. We guarantee live one hit. We're just going to go, or guaranteed live 2 hits, no crit. We're just going to go on Dragon Pulse. Unfortunately, not pick off the KO. And the next turn, click it one more time. Again, all very, very good things for us. Down it goes. Then we're going to go and see a Coco come hard out. Blastoise is going to be the answer, or Blastoise is going to be the sack here. We're going to have to go Victini on this upcoming turn. We're going to go ahead and just click Thunder at this point. No reason to not click Thunder right here. Or Dazzling Gleam. I'm so sorry. We're going to click Dazzling Gleam right here, do a ton of damage. Now Medicham is going to come out. Rain is still up and Electric Terrain still up. I'm going to elect to go for a Thunder here because it does a little, it does just about as much as Dazzling Gleam, neither kills. And if I can get a Para on this thing, I'm in a really good position to potentially win the game. He does Mega Evolve. We are just going to drop a Thunder. No Fake Out. We do 74. Thunder Punch is going to knock us out. This upcoming turn, I am going to go Regirock. We do see a Bulk Up, which is really bad. I do get countered here. Another Bulk Up is going to come out. We are going to Thunder Wave this thing. Unfortunately, miss. Drain Punch is going to come out here. He's going to get a crit, bring us down to about 3%. Stone Edge is not going to take him down. We kind of through that end game. That was really bad. Let's talk about it, obviously. I think obviously you can see me tweaking the game chat. I got incredibly tilted with the freeze, with the Thunder Wave miss, with a ton of different things in this end game scenario. And I kind of let it get to me. There was no reason for me to not spam counter. Literally no reason. I was sturdy, regardless of where I was at. I lived one hit from full. And if he wants to like keep bulking up and then Thunder Punch me, the same outcome is going to happen because he's low. He needs to Drain Punch me to do any considerable damage and get out of range of whatever counter that I'm going to throw out. There was no reason for me not to spam counter. I threw, and I lost because of it. I definitely got unlucky in that game, but I can't really blame anybody but myself for how I played that endgame scenario. That's on me. You live and you learn, right? So, unfortunately, we are going to drop 2 straight to end the season. We end the season, I believe it was... Do we lose? I think we ended the season 5-3 after a 4-0 start. So, definitely not my greatest start to a season ever, but I still feel very confident about this team, how we played early season, and how we can hopefully bounce back going forward. We'll see, but let's go ahead and jump on into that. Alrighty, round 1, we are going up against Dell. One rain team into another. Now, Dell also had Mega Swampert. He was the Mega Swampert team. D-Ray had Mega Medicham instead, obviously. So, big threats. Rain was obviously a big problem last time, and it's probably going to be a big problem this time, except we see no Mega Swampert. We do see some big threats, though. The Latios, the Kartana, Conkeldurr do not have good counterplay, too. Jinx I did not build for, and Snorlax can get really out of hand against a really fatter team like mine, so gonna have to be very careful about how we deal with this team accordingly. There was also a Togekiss that I had to worry about, and Del loves his Scarf Togekiss, so I had to be careful about that. First up, again, we're bringing a defensive Celesteela where Air Slash, Leech Seed, Protect, and Giga Drain. Giga Drain was for things like Swampert, things like Politoed. But other than that, we kind of just click Air Slash, Leech Seed, Protect. With a Rocky Helmet, we check a ton of this physical offense, Conk, Cart, Pert, really freaking well. And are a big nuisance. We also stall a lot of rain turns with the Protect, so that's obviously great. Then we have a Subseed Superior. We are Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Ice, Substitute, and Leech Seed. Really darn offensive, but if you look at this team, I mean, it does so well. We're Hidden Power Ice over Dragon Pulse because of that Togekiss that was on the bench. I wanted to potentially, beat that thing 1v1. Obviously, that's definitely a really, nice thing. Hidden Power Ice at +2 does a ton of Cart, so realistically, once we get to +2, we do a lot of damage to everything. Then, once again, a Colbert Berry Victini. We are Searing Shot, U-Turn, Dazzling Gleam, and Thunder. Searing Shot is going to be like a Lava Plume type move, base 100 power, so not as strong as Blue Flare, but baiting burns into this team, things like Snorlax that want to switch in is really nice. Obviously, something like Conk, we don't really want to burn it, but not the end of the world if we do, if it's already going to be a Flame Orb set, so something to keep in mind. We have a defensive Haze, Blastoise, we are Scald, Ice Beam, Haze, and Toxic. Haze is for that Snorlax. It's really all it's here for. I don't want to be fodder for that thing. Otherwise, physically defensive Swampert, or Blastoise is a decent pivot into things like Latios, decent pivot into things like Conk and Lax, and can be a big nuisance. Then we have our main win condition, Belly Drum, Slurpuff. We're bringing it. We are Play Rough, Drain Punch, Belly Drum, and Facade. Facade is for random Scald Burns in case we catch them. Drain Punch hits the Kartana. Everything else dies to Play Rough. Also, Drain Punch hits the Snorlax really hard, which is nice. But really, everything dies to Play Rough. We're a very bulky, especially defensive set, so we can step along the special attackers that are really scary here. With Unburden, we should be fine. I will have you note, I did mess up my HP number. I'm supposed to be an even number because I want to proc my Citrus Berry at 50, but go me, I forgot. And then lastly, we have Hydreigon here. We are Fire EMZ Sunny Day set, which is pretty cool. We are Dark Pulse, Focus Blast, Flash Cannon, and Sunny Day. Z Sunny Day is going to give us +1 speed, and it's also going to get rid of that rain potentially, which is really nice. I'll be able to Sunny Day in the face of that Politoed pretty much always, and always ensure that rain is not going up against me, and I'll be able to do a lot of damage hopefully. So yeah, that is going to be the squad. Let's go ahead and jump on into the battle. We're going to see a lead Jinx into our lead Victini. I'm just going to click U-turn on this thing. I know I'm faster. We actually get red carded out, so I don't really get to pick what I go into. As Blastoise comes out, Trick Room goes up. I'm going to pivot into Celesteela right here, as it is very slow and can prevent us. Unfortunately, we do see a Lovely Kiss come out. I'm going to go ahead and burn one turn to sleep, and burn a second one, as we do see a Fire Punch come out from this Conk, looking to most likely be Iron Fist with how much damage that freaking did. We're going to go ahead and protect this upcoming turn, as a Rock Slide ends up coming out, probably expecting the Victini. Then make an aggressive pivot into Teeny, as I think that Selly at 40% is more valuable than this Victini at this healthy, which might be a little bit crazy, but we'll see how that ends up going. We're going to go ahead and U-turn out, pick this thing off, go into our Superior this upcoming turn. Lax is going to come out, as I am just always going to Leech Seed. Fire Punch is going to come and do a nice 48%, but thanks to Lax's crazy HP number, we get a lot of that back. Blastoise is going to be the next pivot out here, as we do again see the Leech Seed tick this thing down, but like I said, we're Haze, with the Leech Seed in conjunction with Haze and Skull Burns and things like that, we'll be in a good spot. Sorry if you hear Snowy barking. Snowy, no. Out comes the Politoed, which is going to click Hypnosis on our Toxic, also showing to be Water Absorb. So something really interesting to keep in mind, that this is going to be a Water Absorb Politoed, most likely some kind of Whirlpool Perish Trap set. Next up, we're going to go into Celesteela on this Kartana, mostly trying to stack it off, but we actually see a Z Tailwind, and this is where things get really freaking frightening at this point. My out right here is to not get crit. If this is just a regular cart, I could most likely go into my Victini, but what this thing's going to do is, after it knocks me out with a crit, potentially gets to +1. If it crits again on my Teeny, I can just lose to this thing, like very easily. We're going to protect, again, trying to stall a little bit of those Tailwind turns. This upcoming turn, we're not going to get crit by Sacred Sword. It's only going to do 26, thankfully. Air Slash is going to do 76. We're going to go ahead and go down to the upcoming Sacred Sword right here, which is really nice. We're going to prevent like some weird synthesis play on my Protect choke. But Tailwind's going to end here as we do trade Selly for Cart, which is completely fine. It's kind of what it was here to check, right? We're going to go into our Slurpuff here as Snorlax comes out. And again, this is where I realized, oh no, I fucked up my HP number. I'm at 51. That's not good. I really want my Citrus Berry to live a hit from this thing. Thankfully, it does not go for a normal move. We see an Ice Punch pop. I get my Citrus Berry back, and from here, Drain Punch back up to full. And with our bulk, there's not really anything the opposing team can go for. Dell's just going to kind of get rolled over by this big Slurpuff. Knock this thing out. Politoad's going to be next. We're going to miss one player off, which not Pog. Didn't like that. Skull comes out, doesn't burn us. We had Facade just in case, and player off still Oko's Lottie after a burn. And we're just going to knock this thing out the player off this turn. Out comes Lottie, and we actually don't die to any Lottie hit, which is good because player off misses right here, and that's not Pog. Thunderbolt's only going to do 38. We live to Psychic there as well. Gotta knock this thing out the player off. That is going to be the game. We are going to take home a 5-0 victory in round 1 of playoffs. Good bounce back, especially after getting our ass beat in the last 2 games, and 1-0 fashions to us not playing well. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come in the playoff series. Let's go ahead and jump into semifinals. Semifinals, we have a week 1 run back against J-Bear. Now this time he has a little bit of his own, things that he can bring this time. And this time he does, again, still have things like Necrozma, Mega Mane, Ferrothorn, Landorus. But we've seen a Alolan Persian and a Comfey on the team this time, which is definitely different from before. And obviously our team is different from before. We don't have Stunfisk to hardwall that Manectric anymore, which makes it a big, big threat with Hidden Power Ice on this team. So our team is kind of adjusted to kind of deal with it accordingly. Now let's go ahead, jump into the squad that we have this week. We're rocking out with a very similar set to last time. Air Slash, Flash Cannon, Flamethrower, and Autotomize on this Celesteela. Instead of Fire Blast, we are Flamethrower with the Fire MZ. Again, just a nice neutral click into a lot of the squad. Air Slash, Flash Cannon hits everything really hard. And then Z Fire is to kind of do a lot of damage to Manectric at +1. And just have a solid neutral click into a lot. So yeah, really strong mon. We have, again, Subglare Slurp goes insane here. We are Leaf Storm, Hidden Power Fire, Sub, and Claire. Does really, really well in this matchup, is incredibly strong, and just snowballs this team. Absolutely snowballs it. Then we have an Eviolite, Max for Def, Gligar, we're EQ, Knock, Taunt, and Roost. Pretty simple. We're going to have to be pretty aggressive and U-turn around. I like Taunt for things like Ferrothorn, for things like Comfey, which are really, really annoying into the squad. And even for things like Necrozma, if they're like slower Calm Mind variants, I want to be able to taunt them, stop them from getting out of hand, deal with them accordingly. Decent pivot into Manectric, Electric, Fire, and Bug moves. Got to be careful about that Hidden Power Ice, though. Then we have a really fun set. Maybe just for me, and maybe not for J-Bear or for anybody else watching at home. We are Sub-Toxic Victini with Blue Flare, Psychic, Toxic, and Substitute. There's a lot of like annoying mid-ground pivots into this team. I can get behind subs on things like Ferrothorn. On Toxapex, it didn't end up coming. If that thing wants to pivot out on a Psychic, or it doesn't really do much damage to me, or wants to Toxic, whatever it might be, Comfey, Necrozma. If I get behind a sub, whatever wants to come in and deal with me, things like the Necrozma, Calm Minded Up, Comfey, things like that, I can Sub-Toxic them down, and then behind a sub, our dual stabs just absolutely smoke through a team like this. Then we have a very physically defensive Blastoise for your Scald, or Spirit, Rapid Spin, and Yawn. Yawn is to catch incoming switch-ins like the Ferrothorn, as well as things like Necrozma, yawning them, stopping them from setting up, and hopefully dealing with them accordingly, which is really, really nice for us. Then lastly, we have an Assault Vest Hydreigon here. We are Dark Pulse, Earth Power, Flamethrower, and U-turn on this set. Here to just kind of do a lot of damage, but mostly pivot into that Manectric, as that thing is a big threat to the squad we have this week. So having an AV in our bulk investment allows us to really, really take that thing on pretty darn well. Alrighty, that being said, let's jump right into it. We have a Manectric lead into our Hydreigon. I'm fine with that. I believe I do just click Earth Power in case he wants to stay in and Signal Beam, whatever it might be. Or a U-turn, sorry. Thinking he would want to, Volt Switch out because he has an Oko me, / Scout for Scarf for Earth Power or Draco. And he has the Comfey this time, so I didn't want to let that thing in for free. So we do see Hidden Power. Gligar's going to come out. I believe I do just click Knock Off here pretty darn freely. We see this Landorus is actually a Z-move variant this week. I'm going to pivot into Blastoise here as the Swords Dance comes out. I know my Blastoise can always live a +2 Earthquake from full, but what I do know is it also cannot live a +2 Z Earthquake from full. It was Z Earthquake last time, so I'm going to make the pivot into my Celesteela to eat up this ground EMZ, but instead we actually just see Fly in EMZ Landorus, and because we're offensive Selly, that legitimately almost kills us from full. Which is pretty insane. A raw fly is going to pick me off right here, but again, I know my Blastoise can always take one now, so I'm going to go back out into it. I'm going to Mega, I'm going to Scald, hopefully pick a burn on something, and we do get a burn on the Ferrothorn, which is really awesome, because now this thing does not threaten me at all. I'm going to Aura Sphere and punish this thing for wanting to set up any kind of hazards, as it does go ahead and get up rocks. I can just spin these away ASAP, and now that this thing is burned and low, I always take it all 1v1. Manectric is going to come out right here on my Rapid Spin, so good aggressive switch by Jayber to gain some momentum and initiative back onto his side. U-turn comes out as Comfey is going to come out. I'm like, ooh, I don't really like this guy. This guy's a little scary. You're going to see a substitute come out from him. Like, oh god, is he sub CM? Is he sub lead? Like, what's going on? We see a blue flare come out. Leech Seed comes out, and this makes sense, right? I think the same day I played a game in OGDL where I beat a Selly with a Comfey that was sub Leech combined, because you just beat it 1v1 and, whittle it down. Thankfully, we're prepared with our Toxic Victini. We break the sub, hit it with the Toxic, and we're going to go ahead and be able to pivot out here. Once this thing is toxic, we deal with it pretty well accordingly. It's not going to be aromatherapy in this last slot. That just simply doesn't make any sense at all. So we're going to be able to pivot out here, get into our Blastoise, start off a Scald here on this parting shot from the Persian, which is obviously really, really nice. Don't get the burn, but still get a nice 30% off despite it being -1, which is great. Victini's going to pivot in on a Hidden Power Ice, and again, we're going to use this as an opportunity to now get out into Gligar, which is great. Volt Switch is going to be blocked, so we're using these kind of mid-ground pivots really, really well, in my opinion. I'm going to make the double out to Superior, and from here, we're just going to kind of do some damage. We're going to Leaf Storm up. We know this thing has to Raw Fly us now, so I'm going to go ahead and sub on the fly coming down. Unfortunately, it doesn't miss. We would have just went crazy and won the game. So Persian Alola is going to come out. I'm going to take this Leaf Storm, or not take this Leaf Storm, I guess is a better way of putting it. It's going to go ahead and go down from fucking full. Out comes Manectric, which is obviously a big, big threat to our squad potentially. Going to pivot out into Gligar. He clicks Signal Beam on a mid-ground into our Hydreigon. Necrozma is going to be the switch out. You go ahead and click EQ. Again, not going to do much damage. This thing's really, really bulky. Comfey is going to come out as I get out into Victini. My pivot was Victini because I knew Earth Power wasn't going to come out from the Necrozma. I could Toxic it, deal with it accordingly. But we're going to go ahead and sub up with Teeny as Leech Seed are going to fail. And that is basically going to be the game. There is actually like no way for him to beat this set reliably. Ferrothorn is going to be the sack right here. We pick it off with a Blue Flare. Again, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then I believe it's Manectric comes out. I could just click Blue Flare, right? The only thing that threatens or that is faster than our Victini at this point is going to be this Necrozma, or this Manectric. It volted out. If it stayed in, it died to a Blue Flare. I'm going to go ahead and just Toxic this thing as a Calm Mind comes out. And again, as long as this isn't Rest, which it showed leftovers, I really doubt it's Rest, Talk, Calm Mind, because then it's mono coverage and my, my Hydreigon beats it eventually. Like, there's just not a way for it to win. So, we're going to go ahead and sub up as it does Morning Sun, and at this point, it's just wraps. We Blue Flare into the Landorus. Manectric can come out, but again, it's just going to have to Volt. I always just Blue Flare on its switch out, and it's going to be a pretty convincing 5-0 victory in both of our playoff games up to this point. So down that goes. Comfey's going to come out. At this point, it really does not matter, unfortunately, for Jayber. I sub up. Again, that drink is doing 7%, so I get it back in lefters. So forfeit's gonna come out, and we're gonna take home a game 5-0. Again, really, really picking it up from our regular season finishing performance of 5-3, where we dropped 2 straight to end the season. I'm feeling really confident about this, but unfortunately, our finals game is against Kaz, and Kaz smoked us in regular season. Not due to me getting hacked or my own play, just kind of beat our ass. So we're going to have to pull up and end his little streak here and hopefully take home a championship. Let's go ahead and jump on into that one. Alrighty, gang, finals against Kaz. You can see very similar to the last time. This time he is rocking out with the Tangrowth instead of the Uxie. Otherwise, it's the exact same 6, depending on his Savali type. We're rocking out with a similar but different team at the same time, and we'll kind of jump into it and kind of show you what we're rocking with this week. Something I realized last time when I played Kaz is I think my team is a little too passive, and I really wanted to kind of circumvent that and go a little bit more offensive with a lot of our Pokemon. First up is going to be our Blastoise here. We're actually a sub 3 attack strength with Water Pulse, Aura Sphere, Ice Beam, and Sub, in conjunction with a lot of the statics we have on this team, and things of the sort. I really hope that this set in an endgame situation can really do some work. We also get up subs on things like Heatran really well, subs up on things like, Zygarde and Grin if we force them out, which we should, and we're a very fast variant because of the fact that we're also rocking out with a Sticky Web Slurpuff here. We're Dazzling Gleam, Sticky Web, Heal Bell, and Yawn. Heal Bell is nice in niche instances where we are taking burns and paras and things like that, as that was a big issue for our team in the past. Sticky Web is to slow down Kaz's team. Again, his only removal is going to be like Defog Silvally, and I don't really think he's going to want to fit it in this game. I don't really have Hazard Stack offense. Actually, I have no spikes on the team, actually, so I don't think he's going to be Defog. If I catch him off guard, get up some Sticky Web, slow down this entire team that is grounded that he brought, I'm going to put myself in a good spot. Physically defensive Gligar again. We're Eviolite with Acrobatics this time. Acrobatics, I realized, was just better because we're probably going to get knocked by the Gligar anyways, or the Tangrowth, or whatever it might be, and Acro's just going to do a lot more damage at that point. Toxic is to catch things like Zygarde and Tangrowth. U-turn to Grain Momentum, and EQ is for things like the Heatran. Now, again, we're not rocking with Roost this week because I really don't think there's an opportunity where I want to stay in Roost. I think I need to play this game much more offensively, not passively. I like grabbing U-turn momentum, and I like toxicing things on switch-ins. Then we have an AV Serp once again, going to be our grand check. But this time we are Leaf Storm, Dragon Pulse, Hidden Power Ground, and Hyper Beam. Why in the world are you Hyper Beam? Well, think of the answers to Serp. Last time there was no Tangrowth. This time there is. So granted, it could be Assault Vest. That's a little bit scary. Heatran blown up by HP Ground, and then Heracross, and so we get up to +2, depending on its bulk, we can blow it up with a Hyper Beam. And I see that as a very, very valuable and worthwhile trade, in my opinion. Blowing up that Heracross, a Pokemon my team does not OHKO outside of Celesteela, is incredibly clutch in my mind. Speaking of, here is Selly. We're rocking out the Fly Z set again. I think this is pretty similar to last time. Air Slash, Hidden Power, Ground, Autotomize, Substitute. Really, really offensive set here. Again, Ground is just to hit that Heatran. Otherwise, there is no Flying Resist. So Air Slash just goes crazy. There's also an Electrode on the other team. So I guess that was also a Flying Resist. But Hidden Power, Ground hits that too, yeah? Then we have a Scarf Hydreigon. Same set as last week. Again, if no Silvally Fairy, the set does really well. Good Revenge Killer. Big nuisance to the team. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the battle. We are going to go ahead and lead off with, I believe, our Gligar in this game. We see Heatran lead, and it's going to get up rocks really aggressively in the face of my Gligar. We have not confirmed whether or not this is a Scarf set or not, but regardless, I know my Blastoise can come in. I'm actually going to go ahead and click Ice Beam as a Silvally Ghost comes in. So that's good information to know. Not Silvally Fairy. I know that my Hydreigon looks incredible in an in-game scenario now, but also I click Ice Beam there, not because I expect this, but because I really like scouting and seeing what that Tangrowth item is. If I can catch a thing with an Ice Beam, if it's not AV, it just gets blown up by it. If it is AV, I can kind of adjust accordingly. So we're going to go ahead and hit this thing with an Ice Beam, do a nice 24%, which is great. Pivot out into Silvally here, as a parting shot is going to come out. And the thing is, as Heracross comes out, probably seeing me as a setup opportunity, once again a Bulk Up or a Swords Dance variant, I know I live any one hit from this thing, and I can get up my Sticky Web, which is really freaking clutch right now. We're going to go ahead and see the Bulk Up come out. This is fine, and because it's not Swords Dance, I know I actually live any one hit from this thing too. So I can go ahead and yawn this thing and prevent it from, being a nuisance going forward. Let's see it. Any yawns? There we go. We do yawn the Heracross here, and it can knock me out if it wants here, but I'm not super worried about it in that regard. I think we're actually just going to pivot into Gligar, knowing I take a hit. I can keep my Gligar, or I can keep my Slurpuff as a sack. We're going to go ahead and see the Zygarde come out. I believe I Toxic this turn. We are going to Toxic, which is great because if I caught that Tangrowth, then it really helps out. Again, Blastoise behind a sub, things of the sort. Slurpuff is going to come out as my sack. Tangrowth is going to double back in. Again, annoying, but not the end of the world. We're going to go ahead and see a Yawn come out into this Tangrowth, as Sludge Bomb is going to pick me off. Sludge Bomb also kind of tips me off that he might be Assault Vest, because it's hard to fit otherwise. There's not really a great reason other than to hit Superior. But I guess hitting Superior, even if you're not AV, is big. But with the Toxic on the Zygarde, as we sub up, we're just going to go ahead and click Auto right here. I know for a fact that I live any arrows, because it's neutral this turn, into E-Speed from this thing guaranteed. And if he's a more offensive variant, we can even potentially kill him with this. Unfortunately, we are only going to do 54. 34 from the arrows is definitely annoying, but not the end of the world. In this next turn, I believe I do just Hidden Power Ground, because it covers really anything. Down it goes, and out comes Greninja. The only unfortunate thing about this is this set could actually just win right now on its own, provided that Gren didn't have Water Shuriken, which it is going to come out. It is going to go ahead and click this turn. Not do that much damage. I believe 2 hits still would have killed my Shelly, though, at 19. I do have that thing as a sack now, which is nice. Just going to go ahead and click Leaf Storm into this Tangrowth. And what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to try and pivot into my Gligar, as it covers a Sludge Bomb. It covers a knockoff as well, because then I can aggro this thing and put myself in an okay spot. But it does actually end up just clicking Giga Drain on my Toxic. Again, all things we will for sure take. I'm going to pivot Selly here, just to see if I can live a Giga Drain / catch a, pivot out into something else. we are going to go down here, as this thing is most likely Assault Vest the way it's being played. However, the big thing is, now with this thing being poison, I can potentially take this thing on a lot better. We're also Assault Vest. We're going to take that Sludge Bomb really freaking well. Heat Train is going to come out right here. We're going to go ahead, Leaf Storm again. And I said +2 earlier for the Heracross. I meant +4. Sorry. I'm just not thinking about that calc. We pick this thing off with a Hidden Power Ground. Very, very nice. Heracross is going to come out, as it should live any one hit pretty darn easily, right? Unless we drop a big +4 Hyper Beam in finals. Only do 97, but chipping that thing down is so clutch. Considering my Gligar is at 34, nothing on my team really threatens this thing. So picking it off, or picking it that low with a, what do you call it? Hyper Beam is so incredibly clutch. I'm going to go ahead and U-turn, pick that thing off, get out into my Hydreigon right here as the Tangrowth is going to come out. I'm going to U-turn, get a little bit of chip damage. That in conjunction with Poison is going to do a decent amount. Gligar is going to be the pivot out, as we do just take an Endeavor really freaking well, which is also incredibly clutch. So Volley Ghost is going to come out. I believe I Acro, just do as much damage to the Tangrowth as possible once stay in. I'm going to Toxic the Silvally on this upcoming turn, go down to an Ice Beam. Again, all okay things. We're setting up that Blastoise endgame right now. Hydreigon's going to come out. We're just going to go ahead, click a big Dark Pulse right here. Do a nice little 27. And again, this Tangrowth can 1v1 if it likes. But we're just going to go ahead and click that Dark Pulse. Endeavor's going to bring me down once again very low. This thing is going to be forced to pivot out here. So Volley Ghost is going to be the sack, as it does go down here. And then out comes Greninja, right? Only thing that can really come out and take this on. Down it comes. We're just going to click Dark Pulse, get off a little bit chip. Guaranteed put in range of Aura Sphere, even if it's a really fat variant. Dark Pulse, or Black Hole Eclipse, the Z move is going to come out, pick off Hydreigon. And then from here, hopefully, Blastoise can pick this one up. We're going to go ahead and click Aura Sphere, because it can't go hard Tangrowth at this point. We knock out the Greninja right here. And from here, we're in a pretty good spot. Now, I'll tell you my thought process right here. My thought process right here was sub down, get this thing in range after poisons, and pick it off with Ice Beam. And that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to tell you right now, that was the wrong play. If I would have taken a little bit, calmed down, recognize, hey, you live a Giga Drain, and after that Giga Drain recovery, you will 2-hit KO him with Ice Beam, click Ice Beam, it would have secured this game. Guaranteed. Instead, I take a little bit more of a risky route to the play, to the gold, and I go for a substitute as a Giga Drain comes out. And again, keep in mind, this thing still gets recovery when it's Giga Draining right now. I'm going to substitute again. Giga Drain. Fortunately, it's still getting health back. It's about 50% here. I want to sub up one more time. And it does end up lower than when it initially came in. It's down at 42%. Looking at the calcs, looking at the sets after the match, this was about a 37% chance for me to knock out this Tangrowth. Unfortunately, we're going to go ahead and click it. We're not going to get the roll, and we're going to go down. And this is a frustrating one. I think this was a great game, obviously. I think I played this game much better against Kaz this time, and I consider Kaz a really freaking good Pokemon player. If I would have just taken a little bit of time, recognized subbing down isn't needed, I'm taking extra steps for no reason, and lessening my odds to win, I think I super won this game. I just Ice Beam. I'm risking a crit, I suppose. But even then, Blastoise is bulky, man. I think I might even live a crit, to be completely honest. And just Ice Beam, and the game's over. So definitely a frustrating one, right? Definitely a frustrating one, but I think you live and you learn. I think I built a much better team this time. I caught him off guard with the webs. I was talking about him after, and he's like, yeah, I didn't build for webs at all. So unfortunate, we're able to come in second this league, but I think we bounced back really well. We dominated in playoffs up to this point, and just a little bit of slowing down would have nabbed us another championship here in the first league, or first season of Goons League, GDI, but what can you do? We'll bounce back. We'll figure it out. GG's to Kaz. I hope you guys enjoyed this movie. It's been a while since a movie. I'm playing like shit in my Showdown Leagues lately. So I'm hoping with this next batch where like I'm kind of slowing down a little bit. I'm playing in the Oras Tour hopefully soon. I'm playing an Emerald Open. I kind of got hacks on one of my games, so we'll see if we make it to the pools there. I still got one more. But if we continue to do well, hopefully we'll get you some tournament content. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Later.